You ain't hit YouTube yet.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Hit it. I can't hear it. Yep. Hello, everybody. Hello. Oh, let me get you out of there.
Backstage. Thank
There
you.
you go. Sorry.
Hey, guys. Hey.
Welcome, guys and gals. Good Monday evening to everybody. I'm standing outside for just a second. If you hear the air conditioner and the bugs in the background and the crickets and I don't know what. If the sound gets really weird, which obviously the music did, so at this point, we're low budget as always. Let me know if I start having any kind of problem. Hey, I love y'all. So good to see y'all. Hey, Sherry. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Janae. Kind of a low key night tonight. Don't really have anything planned. A few things I wanted to talk about, and but just kind of hanging out. It's kind of a weird day today.
I will not then.
What now? Uh-oh. Oh, that's Suri talking to me. Hang on a minute. Did you hear Suri?
I did.
Okay. She said, I will not. What the hell? I didn't ask her opinion. Hey, Sarah with the blue dress. Hey, Monica. Hey, Nancy. Hey, Jimmy May. Hey, Florida. There you are. Carolyn's deleted comments. So good to see you. Glad you're back around. Miss Jackie, Wendy, Debbie, Irene. All my mods. Y'all are so sweet. Knitting. Debbie Doll. Um, Debbie Johnson. Pussycat. Miss Nancy. Uh, what's going on? What you been up to, Florida?
Not much. Think about opening up another panel tomorrow night for everybody to come on.
Oh, fun. I know. I kept putting it off over the weekend. We just had so much going on lately, and I don't know. I miss everybody, and I intend on it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna go, and I'm like, well, how about tomorrow night? How about tomorrow night? And I almost did it tonight. And I thought, gosh, I'm kind of over the YouTube streets. There's not much going on. So, Pink Muppets. Hey, Tammy.
There's Jamie, Oh, there's Adventures with Beth and Tammy McD.
I know.
All of our old friends.
She's 25 miles away from Talladega. 25 minutes, I'm sorry. Oh, my son would be there with you. Let me know if I'm trying to remember where the mic is on this stupid iPad. Oh,
I don't know. Is it on the bottom right? I can't remember.
It's on the back because when I sit down with it in my lap, y'all told me before.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're falling asleep.
Hey, everybody. I'm not going to call everyone out, but it's always so good to see everybody. It's been a day. What a day.
What a day the Lord has made.
I've had guests all weekend, and it's been great, but I'm tuckered out. Then, did anybody watch that sentencing in the Hannah Gutierrez trial? That was brutal for her, but that judge told her, and I'm not going to say I disagree. I just got done watching it on my favorite show with Vinnie Politan on Court TV. That's why I am mentioning it.
Hey, Turd Kink. Glad you're here. Yeah, I haven't watched YouTube at all today. It's been.
I know.
I was trying to think. What's the last trial I was watching? Isn't that crazy? I really haven't. We had so much going on
Well,
last week.
maybe Chad Daybell, but Carolyn's deleted comments. They did release the James Crumbly phone calls, and I was telling my son that if only these people had expressed some true remorse instead of being so entitled, that maybe they wouldn't be in this boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the same with if you didn't watch it, Heather, the Hannah Gutierrez, if I'm even saying that right, is part of the Rust movie set with the accidentally loaded gun.
Yes, thank you. I remember now. Oh gosh, that's such a mess. What a
Yeah,
heartbreak.
Carolyn's deleted comments. I can't wait for those phone calls. But I heard the prosecutor say basically they were all, the judge, her, everybody was dissed. The victim, the jurors. Like, you just can't do that stuff. You can't act badly and entitled and just think it's all okay.
Right.
Sarah with the blue dress. Hey, girl. The Crumbleys, back to that trial, not that we're going down this path, but in my opinion, because they also ran, that was an issue too. In my opinion, like, the look was not good. So
that's just a mess all the way around.
Yes, a lot of entitled people who kind of did bad things that can't handle the truth.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying there, Heather?
I get you. I'm picking you up. Sister. It's just 15
go
Tennessee is still missing 50 days. Yes, Jamie May, I'm not far from that. In fact, I kidded around about getting the phone and go film the tragedy pimps down here filming stuff, but I don't think Bullhorn Betty's here yet. She's coming. I think she has court Wednesday or maybe tomorrow. Either tomorrow or Wednesday, I can't remember. And then she's headed this way. Can't wait. Oh, did it warm up for y'all today? Well, I guess not for you yet, Abby Lynn. It was 80 something today. It's like, oh my gosh. It's been beautiful. It's just a little hot already, but that's okay. We're just going to jump right into the hot, humid weather, not play around. I just have to get used to it. Uh-oh, she fell off.
No, she'll be back.
Circle back around. Get the boat. Did somebody drop it?
Somebody throw the life ring out.
Yeah. She is paddling away.
Adventures with Beth. Please email me. I know you wanted to learn how to do some of the fake bakes. Please do email me.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten into it either, Jamie. I mean, I don't know why I couldn't wait, for all this to come about. And now I just don't even want to watch it. It's such a piece of junk. Oh. Yeah, I love the warm and sunny too, Irene. I just don't like the humidity. We just go from one extreme to the other. I like to have a little bit of spring. Although we've had not too bad of a winter. I can't complain.
Either can I.
I like my summer. Can you tell my flowers are in bloom already?
Yes.
All that. Oh, I should take a picture. What is that plant? I always call it Orny Henry. But it's not. It creeps, it sleeps, it creeps, it blooms or something. It takes 3 years. Begins with a C.
Oh my God.
I know. You know what? Stop it. But anyway, It has double, like this one is a double one, so the flowers are double in blooms. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. They're a funny purple. So pretty right now.
I live on a street. I'm up north, not like the other girls, but it's all magnolia trees,
Heather.
kind of.
I see her. Hey, my favorite villain. We're just, I don't want to cry. I just want you to know we're here and we feel for y'all. We're willing to do anything we can to help y'all support, and just so proud and so uh,
Empathetic
yes,
and
so happy y'all are
happy
staying
for
so
your
strong.
group and community that this is your day.
Hmm. Just,
I'm
I felt very overwhelmed for you today. I opened the door to go to my daughter's house. She's pregnant anyway. I was taking a casserole she was wanting, and I was just crying, and she was like, "What's wrong?" I go, "I don't know. I'm happy and sad. All the emotions, you know." I can only imagine. I cannot imagine. I'm so proud for y'all. Y'all are just such heroes. Absolutely, every one of you.
yes.
So
I
glad.
mean, you didn't back down. You stand up for what's right. And our group, we see something, we say something, and we may be abused along the way, but we don't back down. And I'll never forget the day we read that New York Times article, right, Heather? I was
Yes.
like, what?
Yep.
What? New York Times.
It's
Now
a
I
whole.
can't get to that article without paying the New York Times. But
I may have it somewhere and all the things. Yes, we researched a lot of things, and we were going to do a quote documentary on it. We wrote, I think there were legal pads full of information in the rabbit hole that we went down, and we had to keep putting it on the back burner. And it just is so crazy if you don't believe in a higher power and you how things work out the right way at the right time. I mean, it was very overwhelming, and so I can't say happy for y'all, but I mean I am. I don't even know all the words. Um, but thank y'all for being in the chat and being respectful, because we don't want to accuse or throw too much out there. We want to make sure that everything is about them and honoring the victims. Hey Earth, thank you. Good to see you. I watched your stream from yesterday this morning.
I'm reading all the comments to my favorite villain. Your favorite villain. Best name ever.
All right, can you hear me now?
Oh yes, I can hear. Oh, well, I don't count.
Okay. Let me go back inside because it's not liking me out here, I think. Oh, this high dollar production here. Florida,
You ready for one?
yeah. We're gonna play a couple that our favorite villain put out today. I didn't share the post on them because I knew we'd go live, and I thought that less people would get the notice. But after and during this, I'll get a mod. We'll drop her link. Please sub up to her channel. Um, and show her mad support.
Yes, your favorite villain. I can only imagine what you've been through standing up for yourself and calling out people. Heather, she's saying it's because I get accused of being a villain, so why not embrace it? Ha
I
ha.
love it. You're my kind of girl, because yeah, we've been down that road a million times with you. Everyone in this chat's been called a hater, the hater club. We're
Evil,
terrible,
demon,
evil. Yes, we're
poison
devils.
ivy.
Yeah, yeah. We basically have done everything but do anything right, which she's got it so backwards. Her channel is completely gone because of her own demise. Her numbers look like they do, but the views and actually who's there is pitiful. And she did it all by herself. Okay, so you're gonna play it. This is today's. No. This one's I found just a few days ago, but I don't think we had played it or shared the link to it. And I thought it was a really good one. I heard y'all all are a hate group. Yes, I'm sure, honey.
We're an awareness channel.
Yep. We're not
In my
putting up with
opinion.
abuse.
Yeah, I knew she would email you. And whatever. You can figure it all out on your own, villain. But it's been years of abuse. I don't care about me. I care about the others.
Okay, one funny story. If y'all didn't hear it the other night, my non-existing dog, my golden doodle, got up on the counter, I guess, when I ran to the store and ate 8 deviled eggs. Well, we hadn't had any trouble till tonight.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah. Now, my son's like, Mom, what's that smell? I'm like, it's your darling dog. It's like, well, you shouldn't have left him out anyway, where she could get it. I'm like, well, who knew? She would get on the counter, pull
I
the
know.
plate out.
Don't you love it when your son is like stating the obvious? Like,
I'm like, oh,
I've had that going on all weekend. When I was talking to Heather and she told me that, I was cleaning out my refrigerator and I dropped a whole dozen eggs right on the floor and had to mop again.
they have been fermenting.
Yes,
I've been waiting.
Sarah.
I kept waiting every morning. I'm thinking I'm gonna wake up to just some kind of mess. But luckily, other than whatever, little gas, whatever, I've been pretty lucky. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to do things and move. And hey, Barb. Hey, Calamity. Okay,
Ready?
sweetie. Let's roll that beautiful beauty. She's so cute.
I had
I
a
love your
very
eyes.
different video plans for today. And I was live. I know I posted it. And after I ended that live, when I clicked out of it and I went to FYP, I saw that the man that had abused us at the family, some of us sexually, some of us physically, all of us emotionally, and verbal abuse, was arrested. So I'm going to change the topic for today's video. And for those of you that say that I don't show emotion, you might get some of that out of me today. So stay tuned. But I do apologize. This will be a long video. As you can see, that man's name is Paul Gear. Okay. Paul was my family leader for the first year that I was at the family, and he was sadistic. He was disgusting. Okay. He would sit as we were at meals, supposed to be eating, and discuss his sexual habits with minors, right? With minors. Today's a good day, right? I wish that John was here to see it. I wish that the students that could not deal with the trauma were here to see this, because even if you weren't a sexual abuse survivor, that man still tortured you, right? And to see him in a federal prison, there are no words, right? Because this is what we have been trying to get to. We've been trying to get somebody to just validate the experiences that we had. Always like super, it's weird, right? Because unless you are a troubled teen industry survivor, you could have empathy, but you can't understand it. Like how the whole experience was just crazy, right? Like you just don't understand it unless you've been there. And for years, I left in 97, okay? For years, I would say 2000 is when like we really started like being public about it and like demanding change, right? And now it's like all of that work, right, was done for something. Even if this is the only thing to come out of all of the work that we've done, it's still a major victory. I'm going to read this article to you. It's about his arrest. The article says, music teacher is charged with taking teenagers on trips to abuse them. Paul Gear taught for decades at the Family Foundation School, a rural reform academy where he abused students, in indictment states. Fact. The music teacher's classes at the strict no-nonsense reform school in the woods of upstate New York would seem to be a teenager's respite amid all of the rules, a place for expression and discovery. But a criminal indictment unsealed Thursday portrayed that teacher as a domineering and abusive tyrant who, during one-on-one trips away from the school and outside the state, raped his teenage students or forced them into sexual activity. The indictment follows years of lawsuits that have portrayed the Family Foundation School, a small boarding academy in rural Delaware County, as something closer to an unsupervised violent prison. The teacher, Paul Gear, 56, was arrested Wednesday evening in Hancock, New York, where he lives a short distance from the site of the school, which closed in 2014. He was charged with 6 counts related to bringing 3 different children across state lines to engage in unlawful sexual activity. This is the New York Times, y'all. Mr. Gear pleaded not guilty in an arraignment before a federal magistrate judge in Syracuse, New York on Thursday and was denied release pending a detention hearing set for Monday. For former students at the school, his arrest vindicated many years of online campaigns and legal battles involving that place and specifically that man. I'm going to leave the victims' names out. Blank, identified as victim 2 in the indictment, was 16 when Mr. Gear drove her to Pennsylvania ahead of a class trip there and forced her to perform oral sex in his van, she said. Decades later, she was in court to see Mr. Gear in shackles during the hearing. It was really a powerful hearing. What mattered to me counts, she said afterwards. He will not get one more tear out of me. Now is the time for me to live my life. Mr. Gear was in his 20s and living with his parents when an older couple approached him at a choral recital he was leading and offered him a job at the family school, as it was known on the spot. They were Tony and Betty Argyros, who founded the school in the 1980s. Sadistic motherfuckers. For Mr. Gear, that began a career of more than 20 years at the school, which billed itself as a last resort for parents frustrated and distraught by their children's drug or alcohol abuse or behavioral issues. Former students have said he asked personal questions about their sex life and singled out children to stay behind with him after class, which was held in a red barn beside a pond. The indictment described Mr. Gear as a bully, who, in addition to subjecting students to repeated sexual abuse, forced them to eat moldy food, haul heavy loads of rocks around the campus, and endure communication blackouts for long periods. On 3 separate occasions outlined in the indictment, Mr. Gear drove students out of state on one-on-one trips and coerced them into sexual activity. The victims were 2 boys and a girl, ages 14 to 17. Blank of Brooklyn is identified as victim 1 in the indictment. He was 14 in 1994 when Mr. Gear took him on a fishing trip to Maine and sexually abused him, according to the indictment. On the way back to Hancock, Mr. Gear told him not to tell anyone of what just happened. According to a lawsuit that Blank filed in 2019, that case is still pending. Mr. Gear was questioned about taking a minor to Maine in a deposition that same year. In hindsight, I shouldn't have done that, he said, but he denied any sexual abuse. I think I behaved badly in a lot of ways, Mr. Gear said in the deposition, referring to his time working at the school. I definitely was very aggressive. The couple that founded the school later retired, and their son, Emmanuel Argyros, who goes by Michael, took over the day-to-day operations before it closed. In depositions in 2018 and 21, the younger Mr. Argyros denied hearing reports of abuse at the school. You fucking liar. In 2018, the New York Times published an article describing a series of suicides and fatal overdoses by former students. More former students later came forward to describe the horrific conditions at the school. Blank is a former student who recounted her time at the school and described the abuses inflicted in her 2023 book, ICU Survivor. She recalled being wrapped from neck to ankle in a blanket that was duct tape closed and left on the floor of an empty room, shimmying toward a bowl of tuna for food. She was among the former students who hastily arranged to travel to Syracuse on Thursday for the former hearing. Sitting nearby was Blank, watching the man who had taken him to Maine 30 years ago. This guy threatened my life when I was 14 years old, Blank said after the hearing. When he walked through that door, it was the first time I felt like he couldn't hurt me anymore. I'm not scared anymore. So there have been students in contact with reporters for years. The contact at the New York Times, he's written several different articles, right? And I can't put into words what a victory this is, right? Because they're never held accountable. They're never held accountable. And they fucking ruined us for years. It took us years to put back the pieces of what, if they do it at all. There are still students who are very much stuck in that trauma cycle that they can't break out of. These programs are not good. They're not good. And like, I can't imagine the guilt as a parent, like sending my kids. I would never do it. And maybe that's because of my experience, right? But like, these programs aren't good, right? And this is the beginning. Like, we are going to get retribution for what they did to us.
Hell yeah.
Mark my words.
Hell yeah. It just makes you want to jump up and clap.
Elon walks in, like, parent-teacher conference night. It's like, hey, I really don't like this school. I don't think it's doing a good job.
You gonna take it off?
I work in central booking for...
Oh, mate. So good.
I think we lost her. You might want to check backstage.
I am. I'm watching for her. I'm just taking a minute. I meant to put a warning. If any of this is too heavy, please walk away. Take a break. Because I understand. You know how I am when it gets like this. I have no words. Sometimes I think quiet's fine. I want to send all the positive we can. And so proud.
Hey, Florida. Welcome back.
I threw my own self off.
Huh?
I said I threw my own self off.
That's okay. We'll circle back around and get you.
I hope so, because I can't swim. I drown.
Yes, you can.
And I can tell you, all fat people do not float.
Oh, now? I thought you bobbled. Like bobble. We went to the river.
We don't even bob. Not everyone.
I love the river and I love to ski. And so we took Callie's friend one time, and she was kind of short and had really big boobs at the time. And she put that ski vest on, and bless her heart, she could barely get it zipped. We put her off in the water. She's really short, a little stout, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Just, as soon as she hit the water, she was like a little bobble. It would flip over backwards, and she'd kind of be like a turtle flipped over on its back, and her legs and arms. She could hardly get back upright. So I had to get out there with her and hold the ski and get her, in position and kind of let go of her and then she'd go just a few feet, boom. Same thing again. She'd be struggling, little arms and legs. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. Oh my God, it was so funny. Oh, needless to say.
True.
I wore myself out swimming to the next point to, get her. And then the boat would bring the rope back and we start again. And then she'd go a little further and I had to swim to her again. By the time I was exhausted. But God love it, we had a good time. We tried. And she would get so tickled that she could hardly hold on to. It's just, we had fun though. But yeah, she was a bobbler. She was not going to be able to hold up too well, even with the vest on. Dixie, I'm not playing ball right now. No, ma'am, go.
I don't know if water skiing is really that easy, to be honest with you.
Oh, it's so much fun.
What she said? Okay, Nancy.
Go.
Villain is our favorite villain is answering some of the questions, but if you go in and subscribe to her channel, or even subscribe to the Hammers channel, he has done many interviews with former students there. I have watched many of them, and a lot of them would tell you that even when their parents did come, they sat right beside them and kind of guided what they were able to say and not say.
Yes.
And if they did say anything wrong, there was consequences to their actions. So definitely subscribe to both of the channels.
Yes, we'll definitely go through all the information that we have learned over time, and anything new that she can share with us. We'll definitely kind of break all this down a little bit more as we go along. I wasn't prepared tonight. I really wasn't even going to talk about it, but I just felt like I needed to. So we're just going to do the best we can. Any questions, feel free to email. We can send links to you, anything you need. But there's obviously a lot of information coming out. There was something she said a minute ago I wanted to touch. There's so many things. Phone calls. Yes. Oh, that's what it was. They would tell the parents all the things before they came so that they would think that their own children were lying. They weren't doing what they were supposed to. They're not getting any better. And if they say anything about this or that, they're lying. They're just, terrible. It's just, oh.
Right. They manipulated the narrative.
Yes.
From what I've listened to, everything was monitored. I was mentioning before, not last summer, the summer before that, I started listening to the Troubled podcast, which is two girls who were at the school and who are traumatized. And it was really hard to get through and depressing, and I hated it. But I would try to do like an episode every day or so. And it's just not this sexual abuse that's documented in a affidavit from last week from one particular guy, but there were all these crazy things that you hear about, like the kids were rolled up in a carpet and duct tape. You knew if a kid was missing, they had to be somewhere. The one girl on the podcast could never eat tuna again because if you didn't eat the food, they put you in a room and that was the food you ate, whether it was 3 days old, 4 days old type of thing.
Yes.
You would notice if you worked there that one of the kids is missing, in my opinion. And just all kinds of things. And there was staff there for teaching, but it was a boarding school or whatever the right word is. So there had to be people there 24/7. And I'm not sure if we're going to play this one or not. Anyway, about your favorite villain received information from a former student of Jimmy's and described him diving into a shallow creek head first. There's no mistaking that is Jimmy. So, anyway. Yeah, okay. Your favorite villain says wrapped in a blanket with duct tape. I was reading in that Paul Gear deposition that they fed the children regurgitated food. Like there was throw up on their food.
Yes, remember the one in the podcast she talks about, or somewhere we had read her story about she gotten sick and had to eat it, and I don't this whole. So yes, I have another interview that she did a couple of days ago on another channel. It's a little long. We may can play part of it tonight, but she goes through a lot of detail of her experience, and answers a lot of the questions you probably have too. I mean, like I said, it's a whole, but I'm so excited to expose these kind of schools. This has got to stop. They're not regulated. It's just mind boggling. I don't understand. I cannot fathom in America that we have this happen to our children of all things. That's what's the worst of the worst. I mean, they're, like she says, they're treated worse than people are in prison, honestly. 100%.
Yes.
That's what is just the worst. I can't. That's where today I'm lost with words. It just, so again, if it's too much, please log off, come back, take it in small doses. Because I know it's a lot. You can play that other one for me, Florida?
Yeah.
Sorry, my favorite villain. We call it low budget because I have Apple products and they don't cooperate with StreamYard, so she has to share the screen for me. It's so stupid. We weren't ever supposed to go live, but long story short.
All is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.
Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, wait on that one. Hey, Florida. Hey, Florida. Let's wait on that one. Can you bring the two she did today? Her two lives or two videos, the two that remember? You know what I'm talking about?
What?
Okay, hang on. Hang on 1 second.
I'm over here listening to music, watching this woman.
I know. It's like I'm like that. What is going on? I don't remember that part, but okay.
It's beginning.
While you're all finding that, I feel like the school, because it was in a time before New York State required at least public teachers to be certified. I don't know about the private teaching rules in New York State now, but I know a lot about, public schools and tons of certifications, tons of training. You have a degree in education when you teach, not a degree in math and I'm going to teach it with no, learning about teaching methods or anything like that. That has changed, at least, because I'm like, wait, how does that work? So there were loopholes back then. And in my opinion, the school, because it was bad in the beginning too, looked for a certain type of person who maybe had addiction or substance abuse or criminal background for reasons. And, they were thankful for their job because that might be the only job they've ever had, type of thing. That's just my opinion. Yes. Are you ready, Heather?
Are we ready, Florida?
Minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
It was the other one you sent me, so I don't know what that was.
It's okay. It's the longer version in a minute we might do. Okay. I messed you up. I was wondering, I was like, okay, I don't remember the intro on her videos, but maybe I did something weird.
No.
It's okay. I like that song.
Yeah.
Right, Sarah with the blue dress. Jimmy was a recovering alcoholic and felon. I mean, perfect for a private school out in the middle of nowhere. And he was grateful for that job. He thought he was the man. He said it himself. Best time of my life. I'm proud of what I did there.
Your favorite villain, her eye liner is spot on. But can I just say that?
I know, right? You need to
She's
do a
so
video
cute,
on
so
that.
adorable. I know. I love her hair. I just, she's so precious. And she's a fighter. My crazy life, like, I knew you'd like her too.
Ready?
Uh-huh.
My name
Please.
is Margaret. I attended the family school from June of 96 to October 97. On the day after my 18th birthday, I walked out of that school. Okay, so it's a little introduction, but I'm way more interested in the statements you make that I'm about to show you.
Excuse me?
Jenny Joe in there is calling you out. Says you know what happened at that school. There's no way you didn't know.
Okay, who Danny Joe? Who is? Right
That-
now to
that-
call
that-
me
that-
out?
She's calling you out
Where?
right in the chat.
Jenny Joe, I don't see her. Let me see.
She said there's no, you act inappropriate.
Yeah, okay. How did I ever act inappropriate? What is she talking about?
That comment is right. There's no way you didn't know about the abuse that went on at that school. Did you participate in table topics, Jimmy? I wonder, because if you did, most of those table topics were highly verbally abusive, where students would be degraded, and they were often highly sexual in nature and inappropriate to be having conversations like that with minors. You don't think that that's inappropriate? That's pretty inappropriate.
I told her take a link.
A couple of problems here, right? Your wife either doesn't know about what goes on in that school, like actually for real, but I don't think that's the case, right? So what would you do if they clicked the link and came up there, right? Because you're trying to make it appear to your audience that this is not factual. This is absolutely factual, okay? The school was abusive. You didn't report it. You are complicit. You see how that works?
Jenny Joe, I know exactly who you are, Jenny Joe. You emailed me many, many times. You used to be a big fan, Jenny Joe. Then you got involved with BBT. Now, you did not go to that school, Jenny Joe Crowley.
Jenny
Okay.
Joe Crowley.
That might be why people that you support you don't support you anymore, because you legitimately attack them and will not engage in productive dialogue. I'm just saying, but because that was inappropriate, right? And I know that you may think that I'm new to this, but I'm not. Okay, I'm not. Going to that school have to do with saying that they're not okay with the abuse that went on there. I'm grateful to those people that got to it before we did, because they tried to make it known that he is a child abuser and a child abuser sympathizer.
Okay.
Oh yeah, but listen to this, Jenny Joe. Jenny Joe, let me tell you something, Jenny Joe. You know how old these kids are that are my Facebook friends? They're like 40 years old. Okay? Snap that out of your head there. So you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You guys just jumping at conclusions, It's like you think I would communicate with a young student or something. Like I said, you should go check before you Yeah, and I don't do that, I still don't chit chat with female students. Once in a while they may ask for a recommendation. Back in the day, they used to ask for a recommendation because of how well they did in their classes or something. That's all. But they're all, guess what? They're all married. They got kids. They got businesses. That's what I talked to them about stuff. Yeah, today I was talking to one about business. But anyway.
So I'm failing to see how students being abused while you were a staff member has anything to do with the age that they are now, and or you having an open line of communication with them. And you do talk to female students, because I got a message from one yesterday.
Our family here. Yeah. So, and I hope that, and also you're telling me about how I was at my job, teaching at the family, wherever. I'm not going to mention the school.
I see you were smart enough to not give the name away. Why? Because they could Google and see everything. Right.
But you guys know, and you guys are saying that you guys are jumping to some
They that
stupid
cult mentality
conclusions.
over there.
And I think that I'm pretty sure that what you're saying I did, you can be held liable for that if I didn't. And if you had any brains in your freaking head, well, maybe you do. You think you do, but like you wouldn't be doing that. I mean, unless you have proof. I've never done anything like that. I have so many friends on Facebook. Go ahead and find one who would say I did anything. Which you wouldn't. I don't think you could. But if you did for a lie, there'll be other people saying, "Get the freak out of there! I was there when you were there. You full of crap."
But you did. But you did. So is that why you keep former students around, so that they could corroborate your whitewashing of how the entire situation played out?
You know, you're a little whiny baby, because that's why. And you get these kids who are spoiled and didn't want to be there, which, you know, they couldn't make it at their house, so they got sent there. We didn't ask for them. And you're gonna say some of them are gonna be like sore for being there, and they're not gonna get over it. They should. I wish they would and move on with their life. And they're gonna, but some of them, before I came there, there's some things that must have happened, because I hear about them now, but I did not hear about them when I was there. It's a school. I went there and talked.
Wait a second. We're spoiled brats that didn't want to be there, right? And you didn't ask for us, right? But let me ask you this.
Sorry.
You just want us to move on, right? Have you taken accountability for any of your actions? I'm asking for a friend. Also, the person that you must be talking to in that chat, you guys have this idea on the internet, right? Slander, defamation. If it's truth, you don't have a leg to stand on, right? And you and I both know that it's truth, right? And you and I both know that even if you attempted, which I highly doubt you will, to do some type of legal shit here, you don't stand a chance. Why? Because you failed to report the abuse that you did know of, right? So just quit with that narrative. It's old, honestly. And you sound like the other staff. Some kids are just mad that they got sent there. No, not acceptable. You partook in abuse of children that were under your care that you were supposed to help and care for. Period. End of story. If that's not what you're going to say regarding this school, then you shouldn't be talking at all.
I mean, the way, just so that you guys know, the way I felt about the young ladies there, I felt like they were like God's gift for one thing, you know. And you had to, and some of them had been hurt, and you had to, they had to let them know that some men will never hurt you. You know, some men, no matter what you do, you can flirt, you can do whatever the heck you want, but they're gonna like look over that, act like that's not going on, and they're gonna, you know, be a man and be a good guy and just treat you right, like you should be. You shouldn't be coming there and getting hurt. And that was me. I did that when I was there.
Yes, he did that. He's such a hero.
I'm so sorry to have to hear that.
You're absolutely right. A lot of students that were at the family school, a lot of females that were at the family school did have trauma already when they came into your care, right? Y'all made it worse. I don't know if this is what you tell yourselves to excuse your behavior. Y'all made it worse. Teenagers that are struggling with dealing with some kind of certain kinds of trauma, right? They need love. They need guidance. They don't need to be torn down and never rebuilt. So stop it. Stop it. That kind of narrative ain't gonna fucking fly at all, because you are invalidating students that were traumatized at that school.
I still have so many of the students or my Facebook friends, we still talk to this day. Okay.
Why?
And to just talk to some today. So you know, I'm not worried about that. I
will say it again, right? Plenty of us have relationships, Facebook, social media, friends with staff members, right? What does that mean? That doesn't mean that it didn't happen, right? Do you know what trauma bonds are, Jimmy? You ever hear of Stockholm syndrome, Jimmy? Not from the sounds of what you're saying, that's for sure.
But I think you guys should worry if you think if you could be held liable for saying what you're saying to me, you know, and you're letting that go on, your chat and all that. I think that you should watch out, because, you know, just like back in the day, you know, DNA was, you know, DNA evidence. They didn't know anything about that, but now they're getting them guys. And it might be coming a time when you guys, the trail leads back to you. And I'm going to tell you what, if you did wrong and you have to pay the piper, I have no problems whatsoever with that. There's nothing like, oh, well, look at mommy Williams did to them. No, you did it to yourself. You know, if you get in trouble for anything that you're doing for this channel here, it's on you. You're doing it. You shouldn't be doing it.
And I'll say it again. The best defense in defamation and slander is the truth. Everything coming out of my mouth is factual, right? I don't know what DNA has to do with anything. And I think that you would be better served to understand what protected speech is, right? Because that matters on the internet, right? First Amendment rights matter on the internet. And if you're on the internet, people are entitled to their opinion of you, right? Now, let's go from opinion to fact, shall we? You stole my childhood and caused such intense amounts of trauma that continue to haunt me as I enter my 35th. Are you really that removed from reality? Comment from Jimmy. Many of you know I had many fun and funny times with you guys. The best thing I ever did was spit in your face the day I walked away from that place and never looked back. I just banked my first million 20 years later. What the fuck are you doing? Your time is up, and I'm coming for your comfort zone and your safety net. You're not walking out of this unscathed. You have no clue what's coming your way 20 years later, and here I am, motherfucker. Student's name. Remember my name. It's going to be the one that undoes you. Jimmy responds, I remember the name. I do not recall doing anything to anybody that would cause the animosity you are sending me now. Please give me something more so I can remember you. I do know we all see and experience things differently, and I do not want to downplay anything that may have happened, but I do not recall anyone spitting in my face. Just give me a situation that I should remember. I will take responsibility in any situation I was involved in. Student, that's the problem. You abused me as a child and can barely recall my name and the circumstances. I'll ensure I pass the sentiment on to the courts and show you how, much like the hearing of Paul Gia, do not understand the gravity of your situation. Jimmy's response, I am thinking you have mistaken me for someone else. The student responds, 8/27/28/07, laundry room. You grabbed me by the throat and told me I was nothing, repeatedly yelling, boy, at me. I spit in your face, minimum of 10 witnesses. I mistake you for no one. You have haunted my dreams for almost 20 years. You, Jimmy, are a known child abuser. You're going to be held accountable if it's all I have left. We don't forget. We don't forget the ones that abused us, right? What you don't get to do is not put it in writing so that he would have had proof, right? See, you think that we're all stupid. Some of us have gone on to live very professional lives, right? And you have no idea who became what. Think about that.
Oh, that's so good.
Again, this is not, I'm just so excited after, I keep saying excited, that's not the word. I'm so elated that we got to start talking about this, a couple of years ago, and now here we are. You know,
right. Right. Honestly, I'm happy that the victims are being validated and that they are being heard.
And for the record, we always tried to say, over and over, because we had no proof of anything that Jimmy had done wrong. My problem always was that he should have spoke up. Anybody there should have spoke up immediately. I think there was one lady that did write an article I think they quoted her in something where she only was there a couple of days and left, and he went and reported it, but they didn't do any good. It didn't do any good. I think she was a nurse, maybe not, because it didn't seem like they had
there.
Okay.
Not a student. I just want to clear that up.
Yes, sorry. I'm looking at the chat at the same time. I can't. Sorry. I keep getting distracted because I read her comments.
I'm sorry, I'm distracting you.
No, I'm just
situation, but I did the jail for 20 years. I have never heard, seen any kind of nothing anywhere close to what they suffered.
Right.
It was not allowed.
It's just crazy. I mean, even military, even hazing, you know what I mean? I don't even know. To roll them up and now I do believe she says that not long after she left in the late 90s, early 200s when she left, 2000s. I mean, they changed their policy a little bit less in rolling you up in the carpet, but you still were put in isolation rooms with a camera in front of you and, humiliated and abused still. They just tried to kind of, I guess, get away with a little bit more, tighten up a little. I'm not sure. Yes, she said, okay. I know I'm afraid to even speak without getting out my notes and going word for word because I don't want to say anything wrong. Can we play that other one? Can we do the other one from today? Again, this had nothing to do. It would not have been brought, in my opinion, as this channel owner. I wanted to expose the school all along. I didn't care if anything had ever happened. I still thought it should have been, broadcasted to the world. But even then, I just felt like it needed to be out, especially when all this happened. It was like, wow. So we're kind of scrambling, trying to get together. And she put out these videos with what they had said. I just couldn't believe it. Exactly, clipped them word for word. You know what I mean? And I was just very overwhelmed today. I just thought, I never thought. I kept rooting that he didn't do anything. And I'm not saying he did because it's, in my opinion, I'm just trying to say that in the past, I really pictured this guy going in with this little briefcase. At the end of the day, he left. And then maybe once a month, you go back and you have a teacher's meeting. And then maybe, but how did you not know? You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, even the smallest bit of it, I really did. I promise. I kept saying, there's no way. Because we saw this, Jimmy taking care of the kids background. And I was one of the last ones that was holding out hope. And I'm not saying anything in my opinion, too. I'm just saying, like, just knowing was enough, in my opinion. 100%. You know what I mean? Even if you didn't do anything, you knew. Which is even worse, It's the old thing that people used to say, what you say to me hurts worse than your hit. A hit, a slap, that heals. It's the words that cut your soul. And those babies were crying out for help,
Yes, it was like being in a prison and, they were children and the people who were supposed to help them hurt them. And you can sugarcoat it all, you want, but it is what it is. For the record, I have said, Jimmy, you can't work somewhere for 12 years and not get an odd feeling about something. There are other videos. I don't know if the villain has seen them, but there's one that I refer to as the footsie video, and he tells on himself. But let me make it clear. I can't speak on, sexual abuse or physical abuse. I have always said, if you were there that long, you had to have known something. And he does say he knew certain things. And then he reported it to somebody who died. But you don't report abuse to the abuser. You got to go to, third parties, the authorities. You don't just, oh, hey, by the way, principal, I saw a camera or a peeping Tom or whatever, and then just think it's all okay. That is what I can say disturbed me.
Yes, Destination Nation, that's what when I heard Merv saying, oh, I'm going to cover this story over here on True Crime with Carolyn.
Yeah, she can't wait to read the deposition.
I thought that couldn't be even better, like this whole facade, this whole mask. We kept saying it was bad over there and all the things, but I kept waiting. Merv wants me to put everything out I know about her. Show us proof, show us proof. How much? You know what I mean? Like, how? It's just gross that somebody's still on this platform, that they're able to even say what they did, and it's even still out there. There's no self-awareness, no accountability, no sorrow.
What makes me sick is the way she tries to show her fake, false, delusional empathy. Because we know she doesn't have it.
Right. It's just another opportunity for her. She has known about the school all along. We've been calling it out all along, and we were, attacked, and that's not true. And if anybody says anything about Jimmy, they're making it up. They're the liar. And, she covers all the bases. I don't know what anybody said about Jimmy. I just know what they're saying about the school. And clearly, the New York Times is not going to publish a report like 4 years ago that isn't fact checked. And besides that, there's tons of other exposure of it. And now it's convenient for her. Now she's the hero. And now she's going to do interviews that portray her husband as like helping people. Okay. I mean, let's go for it. Let's do it. I can't wait. But it's not right, I don't know the victims or whatever she has in mind, but for her to be doing it is only for her own personal gain. And my favorite villain said, turn off your monetization. She will never do that. Not that she's making much anyway. She will never do that because everything is about the money and about appearances. She shouldn't even be speaking on it at all. It should be Jimmy to begin with, not her. Anyway.
It amazes me that she says that they contacted her for a platform. Wrong answer. Wrong. The Hammer's been out there for over 2 years doing this. She just wants to she just wants to twist the narrative so Jimmy looks good.
Well, if there were so many
lies out there.
She needs more narcissist supply. It's run out over there. And so she is envisioning herself as something she's not, and like basically could get more love. She said the students were hugging her. Okay. Like, and why now? Why now? And she was like drooling at, I'm going to read the deposition. Okay. But
no,
it's not going to end well for her with this stuff. Yes, Pink, she will definitely kill her channel covering the school. It's not going to save her channel, and that's what she thinks it is. Her behavior is what killed her channel, not us, not the hate community, the fact that she preys upon vulnerable individuals. And even this weekend, a whole nother subject. She was, venting on Christy Ann about preying upon vulnerable individuals. Carolyn's already preyed upon them. Like, you're the leader in that. J May, hi there. She's talking about those hangers. That was epic.
My favorite villain. The point of this is my channel was a clip channel to show her own behavior, her own bad traits. And, it's so weird because so many times we called it a cult over there. I mean, we're just beat up, abused, talked horribly, doxxed, real life, called the police. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. I'm in a federal lawsuit with her now. But the point is, thankfully, the momentum, started and more people have left. But again, it's just showing her own words. And that whole, it's just so gross. I'm so glad the clips were there. Whoever sent them out.
Yes.
Just so thankful.
Yes, he tells it on himself. Why would he say he treated those girls like God's gift? I will never forget hearing that. And like, whoa. I mean, puke in the back of my throat. Who says that?
It's a weird way to describe it. Even if it was just nervous and awkward, he was jerking all over the place. It bothers me watching the footage. His whole body language is just gross. Squirmy wormy there. I think eventually he ends up about halfway off the screen. And she won't come in there and relieve him. And he's just had enough, It's just, and by the way, that's another point. Thank goodness I thought of that. Jenny Joe or whoever was in that chat is not the same one, Merb, you keep doxing and saying that she is over there with Natasha or whatever. That's not even the same person, bless her heart. We saw her not long after you accused her, and we're like, It doesn't even go to the same account, lady. What is wrong with you?
But the minute she saw that name, she did
Yes.
classic Merb. Classic
She
Merb.
just
I know who you are, Jenny
Yes.
Joe. Don't
And
you
threatens
forget
that poor
you
woman.
emailed me, which means, Jenny Joe, don't you know I have your personal information and probably your kid's name and know where you live and you work? So, I mean, she's just classic Merb.
Shut
And
that
then,
woman. Ugh, horrible.
I mean, and then yelling from the other room. Just crazy. She is so predictable and delivers every single opportunity and then acts like she's the victim. Opposite.
Here comes Pink. Pink, I go put up with the other. Hey, you're a star. Okay, will you play the other one real
This
quick?
one I'm going to throw a trigger warning on. This is disgusting.
This made me cry.
There's a trigger warning here for sure.
So you don't get to change the narrative now that the school is in a spotlight, right? You don't get to do that. You don't get to sit on your platform shaming students, disrespecting the dead, and then when there's cases going on, switch. You don't get to do that. That's not going to happen.
And here's Jolie, another one. Before believing anything, because now she's got to tell everybody this, that Merb has to say about the Family Foundation school, you should just Google Family Foundation lawsuits. There will be several sites, but one of my recommendations is the article from the New York Times by Michael Wilson. It explains what happened to the students forced to attend and then decide what to believe. It's shocking.
Now, knowing that the first article that was written in the Times was about the incredibly high death rate of alumni, do you think that voice was appropriate? Because I don't think that voice is appropriate for the subject matter at all.
And we didn't change her voice.
There are
that was
several
the way she read those
lawsuits
comments.
that have already either been settled or are actively in court right now. So that's factual. But here you are shaming somebody for talking about it. Why? Why, if you were not aware of the abuse, would you not want to talk about it?
Thanks, I will. I would also like to read that book that the one mother wrote. I saw that young man come forward in court so brave, but he has passed away like so many. Now watch this one. So many of the students in the 100s. Really? Really, Teresa? Okay. It's heartbreaking and needs to be exposed.
The man's name was John Martin Crawford, and you should put some respect on it because he was a hero, and you are a piece of shit for the way that you are talking right now. I'm just letting you know. It is over 100. I think that we're at like between 140 and 150. How fucking dare you? How dare you?
The book is titled I See You, Survivor by Liz Linnelli, aka Survivor 993. You can find it on Amazon.
The book is titled I See You, Survivor by Liz Ionelli. And she is called Survivor 993 because of the abuse that she endured at that school for 993 days. The fucking audacity of you. And you're doing a great job, right? Because you're disrespecting two very respected students in our community.
Says, wow, there's a lot on Google. Been reading a lot.
Let me get this straight. You are shaming people in a live stream when they're just telling the truth about the family school, and you wonder why people are so upset with you. And those weren't even students, right? But we are.
I've never wrote to you or phoned to you or texted you. Really? What about your Proton account? I am commenting on platforms about the topic, which is my right to do. No, it's not. Not
related to the school, but Proton emails are not traceable. So how would you know who was emailing you from a Proton account?
I am commenting on platforms about the topic, which is my right to do. No, it's not.
How is it stalking and harassing, discussing a school that was abusive to students? I'm really just failing to see how one correlates to the other. Say their names.
That's right. Say their names. That's right.
Not disrespect them.
Mm-mm. There they are. God love them.
These are all students who are no longer with us. That's so sad.
Mm. Life Rewinded, I'll get her Twitter. Oh gosh, it just breaks my heart.
It's all about her.
And all this was, obviously, was I had made a video somewhere at some point that obviously had something to do with the school, and she was reading out loud the comments one night on a live, and basically she was doing those plus others where she, threatens people. But that somebody must have said, I didn't even know that one existed. I'd forgot all about it.
Yeah,
I had
this
no
is her
words. When I
normal.
heard it this morning, I thought, holy moly. Like, really? I don't know. Potter, do you have her Twitter account link? I don't know if you do. I know I dropped her YouTube one earlier. Oh, look, she even put Liz's book in. Oh, you're so good. Y'all are such great mods. I'm such a terrible host. I'm just sitting here staring at the chat, reading y'all's comments. Y'all are so sweet. To my favorite villain, not her Twitter, TikTok. I'm sorry. I can't think and talk at the same time tonight, apparently. There's a playlist called Breaking Code Silence on my channel. Oh, great.
Yeah, it was, I couldn't believe that Paul Gear was arrested last week, and now, that's my new topic. Okay. Okay. I just can't get over it. Opportunist. And I do have to read through that deposition one more time as soon as I start reading legal mumbo jumbo. I check out. Irene F. It means Family Foundation School, and that's the name of the school, which was also called Allenwood Academy. Merb said, bragged on it that Jimmy worked there as a teacher for a college preparatory boarding school.
Did you see this comment? Why wasn't she at the court hearing? 40 of us were at court. 45 of us were on the phone.
Well, she said she's going. Then she'll see me because that's my neck of the woods.
Hey, Mr. Sunshine. Hey, Boondocks.
Now, I think that the villain put out a short that made me cry.
Yeah. Do you have that one in Florida? I know I sent you the link for that one. But
the villain can correct this, but I think it means that Paul Gear is not getting bail and that they're going to be keeping him in jail until the hearings or whatever. Can you imagine that old man going to jail? Will he have any friends? He is creepy, by the way.
Very creepy.
So,
I have played all the ones you gave me except that long one.
All right, I'm going to look. I thought I sent it
one
to
of
you.
these days I'm going to learn how to do this myself. I don't know. Can you just play it from her channel or do you have to send it? Okay. Potter's posting the playlist you should watch on her channel. Yes, I have watched you before, villain, but it is a heavy topic. It's not a feel-good thing. And, you know, we run away from things we don't like, but We also have to stand up for others.
My gosh,
They have him hidden, Paul. We can't find his location for his safety. They just had 2 police officers shot in Syracuse yesterday. So this world.
Sorry, my phone's like spinning and acting crazy. Okay. I sent it to you, Florida.
Okay.
Pink says, Merb in her disrespectful and vile dialogue. She'll lose her channel most definitely because it's harassment against SA survivors. Yes. J-May, Merb lacks the traits necessary to even discuss Family Foundation school victims. Does she think people that do care about the victims will flock to her channel? That's not happening. Right, J-May, because of her personality. They'll go elsewhere and watch it. Google will terminate her channel, not us, against terms of service. Well, she'll blame it on us, Pink. She sure will.
Oh, yeah, everything's our fault, but it's okay. Little by little, the layers were pulled away.
That video when Jimmy was playing the guitar, you know, I have that memory thing going on. It's from December 10th, 2022, if anybody wants to go find it.
Hey,
That one, it blew my mind.
Yeah, it's just...
It is fascinating, Gary, and we've known about it for a long time, and we've been attacked when we would bring up that school. Here we go. Okay, I am going to cry again.
Another case was filed in November. This is far from over. Gary, we're just stumbling around the words to say tonight. It's kind of a quiet. I have a friend here in chat called our favorite villain. And she has just been telling her fabulous story and letting us know the good news. You ready, Florida?
I don't know if I can do that because she's only got it on TikTok.
Okay.
It's...
All right. I'll work on it. Do you want to start the other one? The long one?
Yeah.
We can start it a little bit. I don't think I want to hear this whole thing. I listened to about an hour and a half today. It was really good. Well, actually, right before we started, because she sent me the link late. And I didn't know about it, so I was trying to speed listen, but she has some really good information in it. And so we'll drop the link for it also. Can I post it? Yeah, hang on a minute. Let me see if I can just mod you from... Oh, my God, really?
Oh, Jamie. Use clips from the Jenny Joe video, I call it. Sorry, Jenny Joe. Jenny Joe is the sweetest person ever. And I'm not going to say I was surprised when she left Merbs. I was just glad.
Who is this? The sweetest person?
Jenny Joe.
Okay, yeah.
She really is.
Yeah. I just felt horrible when she got thrown under the bus like that. It was ridiculous. Started accusing her and didn't even know who for sure anything.
Well, like I said, classic Merb behavior.
Okay, my villain, if you want to, she's going to drop it. Hang on 1 second, Florida. She's going to drop it here in the chat. Can you pull it from there?
I'll check.
Okay. If not, we'll go back to that one. I know, she's like, damn it. You're so demanding.
Pink. Everybody can say it better than I can.
Know that? I said, you know, I don't mind.
I know, baby.
Yes, thank you, Florida. Jamie, she does have so much material in that live stream, and it's so dysfunctional where in the beginning, you know, whatever, he's trying to talk to the chat, and Merb flips out on Jenny Joe, and then he does whatever he does, and then he fights with Carolyn. He fights with her. Honey, let me tell it. Honey, I don't want to do this. Honey, be quiet. It's like so dysfunctional. And then he strums the guitar or whatever it is he does. That I can't handle. And then comes back to it. You shouldn't be speaking on it at all.
Okay, I dropped the link. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't either. I didn't hit send. All right, hang on, Florida. There it is.
Can I also just say, why are people so gross? Why is this even a thing to begin with? What is this world coming to?
Can you pull it from the chat, Florida? You don't like us.
I've just never done it from chat.
All right. Copy and paste it into your browser and then okay.
She's the one over there on the iPhone telling me how to work a laptop.
I know, right? I know that's why I don't want it. I refuse. Yes,
Yeah,
Cheryl. I want the whole world to know. All right, Florida. Don't worry about it. I'll fix it over here in a minute. See if you can you want to start the long one, longer or whatever. If y'all want to hear that, if everybody's up to it, we don't have to go long because I know it's late. Whatever y'all feel like.
whatever Florida can get to. Hellraiser 3. She streams her entire life. Well, yes. And
then some.
I'm going to have to clear my calendar for the vacation. By the way, has anybody noticed she's like looking for a disease to have? She needs to be sick for some reason. She needs to be the victim.
Yep.
She has to one up Sharon Martin.
Shit.
Okay, babe.
I'm glad she took my advice to get her testing done.
I run out of shit to talk about. I know normally.
I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to.
Yeah. There you go. You
Yes. Grab your Kleenex, and there are going to be some trigger warnings for tonight because it is a pretty serious topic. So.
I did it on like 1.25. See if you can. If it's not too hard to do, y'all let me know if it's too slow or too fast. If y'all can hear it, but and we can stop at any point. Just we'll go for a little while and then we'll start it again another time.
All right. So now let me grab this real quick, and I will be bringing our guest up just momentarily. So as y'all saw my community post earlier, and I've still got sinus junk, guys, so I'm very sorry. We're talking about the troubled teen industry. Our first episode of this series that I am titling Silenced No More. It's on the troubled teen industry, or TTI for short. These are for-profit, keyword there, for-profit based, under-regulated, the other keyword there, programs that focused on troubled teens. Issues like drug use, mental health, eating disorders, and so many other things that teens face. The origins are traced back to a 1958 cult called Synanon, originally known as Tender Loving Care. This was a new religious movement that was originally a drug rehabilitation program, but developed into a whole alternative community. Ultimately, they became a cult called the Church of Synanon in the 70s. This group has been described as one of the most dangerous cults in America. They disbanded in the U.S. in 91 after several members were convicted of things like financial misdeeds, evidence tampering, terrorism, and attempted murder. Go figure. But there are groups still in Germany and Australia. However, there is a timeline of these types of programs that technically go all the way back to 1912. Because these programs are not regulated, they get away with extreme actions that, in my opinion, do more harm than good. They allow children to be treated in a way that would be considered illegal in our prison systems. Innocent children being treated in a way that the law sees as a crime to convicted criminals. Make that make sense, okay? Make it make sense, guys. So in our first episode on TTI Industry, Silence No More, we have a very special guest. Margaret spent from June of 1996 to October of 1997 at the Family Foundation, School in Hancock, New York. She is here to tell us her story and horrors that she's witnessed. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. And the rest of you guys will know Kendall, our other little friend. This is her real life friend, Margaret.
Yes.
And so Margaret is going to be sharing with us her story, guys. Down the rabbit hole. Hello, welcome. Thank you, honey. Misty, welcome. All right, guys. So Margaret, take it away. I'm giving you the floor. You go with it.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Where were you at? And what was the situation that put you in the school?
Having gone through teenage years with like my children, right? Because they're adults now, right? Looking back, I wasn't doing unnecessary teenage. I was doing normal teenage. I don't know if I could curse, but my mouth.
Yes, you can. Please drop an F-bomb because, girl, we're here for it.
Okay. I was doing normal teenage shit, breaking curfew, drinking. At that point in time, I did grow up in New York City, Staten Island. And at that point in time, it was, the New York City club scene was very club kid-esque and, experimenting with hallucinogenic drugs. I got expelled from 2 schools is what ultimately sent me to the family. I was expelled from 2 schools my junior year in 6 months. That May, I wound up stealing my mother's car.
Oh, and you went for a joyride.
I went for a joyride 3 hours away.
Oh.
Overnight, and I came the next day, and I totaled her brand new car.
Oh no!
So for insurance purposes, I had to be arrested. Right? They were not going to fix the car unless there was some type of charges made. Right? So I got arrested. She sent me to a psych hospital in upstate New York, which I'll get there. But they had an educational, like a counselor type, who later on I found out that they funneled many children into the family school.
Oh no!
Right, like when we got there, they were like, "Oh, I'm from here. I'm from here." Well, there was a bunch of us from there. So when I got there, my mom and I. Let me go back. So my mom had me super young. Right. So she was always nervous that I would be like follow her footsteps. And I think that played a very real, like it was a very real thing for her. So she did everything she could to prevent that.
Brandy, hey, this is Heather with Help to the Note. We're so excited. Thank you for letting us show your wonderful interview of our new friend. It's just, thank you. Thank you. We're dropping your link. Everybody show her love too. Let me keep going. Sorry.
2.5 years, I couldn't have anything that he had given me. There's like a dress code, right? And at that point in time, it was kind of like crop tops and bell-bottom jeans and platform shoes. They take all that. It's considered old image, right? They stick you with a student who is essentially to follow you around, right? Because I think that that's the most runaway risk, right? And I didn't even know, like in my head, I'll be here 30 days and I'll go home. The first 30 days you're on, it's called blackout, right? Blackout meaning I could not talk to anybody in my family, right? Like I couldn't speak to my mom, who at that point in time was the only constant that I had had my entire life. So it's kind of like jarring. Those 30 days, what the school makes you do, number one, even if you're not an alcoholic or a drug addict, they kind of push you to admit that, right? They make you make this list. It's sort of like if anybody is in recovery, it's like a 4th step, right?
Okay.
However, what the school does is they encourage you to embellish on said 4th step, right? So essentially what that does is it then makes the parents believe, holy shit, my kid needs this, right? Because most of us lied. The ones that I've spoken to about this process, a lot of us lied because we thought we were pleasing the people that we were supposed to be pleasing, but what we were really doing was, telling our parents this is what we need.
All it was confirming what they were trying to tell your parents.
Exactly, which is a huge thing. They really had a good handle. I call it a huge circle jerk of manipulation, right? Because that's exactly what it is. There are children that are being manipulated. There are parents that are being manipulated. Even the staff, to some point, was super manipulated because they believed they were helping, right? I was probably there for about 6 months, the first time that I got physically restrained. right? At that point in time, being physically restrained meant you were wrapped up in a blanket, secured with duct tape. The first time I was in isolation, I spent 5 days it was like I always try to find the words to explain it, and it wound up becoming like the place where the music was, right? But it was off a boot closet, and you was sucked. The first time I was there was 5 days, right?
So were you restrained the whole 5 days?
The whole 5 days.
Oh my God.
No use of the restroom for any reason. There's always either a staff or the school had like a hierarchy of students, right? There were students that were, and I don't hold this against them. Like, I understand that different people use different coping mechanisms, and I understand that some may just conform to survive, right? Because at some point in time, there are, even though we were young, right? Like, you still look around and you're like, this shit ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what's going on, and you are just like, you're afraid to tell somebody else because the fear of the punishment would always override that. You know what I'm saying? And the punishments could be harsh. I know I sent you there's recently been some legal events going on with the school, and I really don't want, like, one of our abusers who did sexually assault children was arrested. I think 2 weeks ago now. And he had a hearing the other day, and there were like 45 people in the courtroom physically. And the student that I spoke to personally, she said that they could see the number on the screen. There were like 45 of us on the phone. And like, that's powerful, you know, because
that's big.
Like, for so long we were silent. And I know that's, but it's the perfect word, because even though they weren't physically in control of us anymore, it does something to your mind being in that situation, right? In one of the depositions that I did read, he talks about the punishments that were used. You know, some kids were put on rock sanctions, meaning all you did was carry these super heavy rocks from one place to another, no purpose. He talks about these sanctions, and I was reading it, and I was like, they really believe that, like, they're so twisted in their minds that, like, oh, well, it was giving the student a chance to think about that behavior, but was the behavior really that wrong? Right? Like, it did.
Did the behavior did the punishment fit the crime?
Absolutely.
Kind of
right. And I would see students, like, the corner was a regular thing for me. I was not, did not conform well.
You didn't conform very well, huh?
No.
Imagine that.
After the 2-hour conversation we had the other day, I'm not surprised.
I don't conform well, and I usually go the other way, right? So if you are trying to force me to do something and I know what you want, I'm just not going to give it to you on spite alone, right? So you don't understand. But the parents, I ran away, and I know that this is all over the place, right? I ran away. I was 16. I was probably there about a year. No, I had to be 17. I'm sorry. I was probably there a little over a year. I hitchhiked. Okay. If my 17-year-old daughter ever hitchhiked anywhere, I would have killed her. Right. That's how desperate I was to get away from what was going on. Right. And I'm lucky that a super kind man drove me to a couple of cities away. Right. But I wasn't smart enough at the time to realize that it was the same bus line. Right. So when I got off the bus in New York City, there was a cop standing there with a clipboard with a picture of me, obviously. And he then drove my mom. But my mom came to pick me up, and I stayed. That was the first time that I had been in my home in over a year. And I told my mom, you know, I said, like, you don't understand what this place does to us, right? And she drove me back. That was the first time that I could, like, I thought that maybe if I told her, because you couldn't do it on the phone because they were listening to your calls. You couldn't write it in like a letter because they were monitoring your incoming and outgoing mail. So you could only do it in person, right? And I thought at that point in time, like, why would she think that I wouldn't have left the place if it was that bad, right? And I think that a lot of these places, like, they put out this marketing, right? Like, this is a good place, right? And to most of us, a lot of us came, like, we were comfortable, we were wealthy, we had money, right? So that's not out of the norm for parents to send their kids to a boarding school. That's it's acceptable. However,
well, in the late 90s, that was when Dr. Phil was promoting these camps, the wilderness camps, the horseback cowboy camp stuff, and the others like this school for people that were in serious trouble. And so people thought it was a good idea.
Right.
I mean, if Dr. Phil is promoting it, it can't be bad. Well, I'm thinking he didn't research shit properly.
Not at
or
all.
got cut back. I mean,
And
I hate to
he
say that
was-
about Dr. Phil because I love Dr. Phil, but now I'm beginning to wonder.
Right. Like, and he, from what I know, he was using Diamond Ranch often, and that was not like, I've never heard of a program that was just a boarding school. I'm sorry, that's not actually correct. I have heard of them, but anything that markets itself as a therapeutic boarding school, which, let me just be clear, there is no therapy. Okay. I think we were supposed to have group on Thursdays when I was there. I don't remember. Maybe like a couple of months, and all scattered. Like, there was no therapy. I was actually just talking to another student the other day because I remember like this whacked out man coming in to talk to us. And I was like, wasn't he a doctor? And somebody responded to me, and he was a doctor, but they thought he was nuts too. So I'm like, I just don't understand how programs like this are still not only very much a thing still, but they are also like nobody, I don't know. And I understand.
They're not regulated. They're just not regulated.
They're not regulated at all.
Here's one thing I read in some of this stuff, was a form that they have them sign removing children from the medication that they are on. Big red flag here, because that should never be done without the consent of the physician treating the child, or adult for that matter, and done properly. And who they weren't working with the previous doctor. So to me, that's a red flag. To me, that is a huge red flag. But then again, in the 90s, we weren't talking mental health. And even in the early 2000s, we really weren't at that place where we were truly understanding. And that's bad.
Right.
And go figure, one of the children literally takes his own life. How long had John been there?
John was probably there. I think he did like 2-3 years there.
So he'd been there a while.
He was there a while. John was there.
Y'all, I'm just trigger warning, guys. This is a very sad story on him. I have cried over this guy.
Yeah.
I have cried. And today I text Kendall and said, this is killing me.
Yeah, there was one of the things about my program specifically is the death rate, right? And I think that there's got to be almost 170 that have passed all before the age of 40. A lot of them, the majority of them, either by suicide or drug overdose, right?
Well, the program's not fixing what they're put there to fix, because it's not doing it properly
at all. It's in my experience, 90% of us come out worse than we go in, right? Like, knowing what we know, and I understand that, like, it evolves, right? Knowing what we know about addiction as a whole, right? Trauma is what causes addiction. The answer to the solution for addiction is never adding more trauma.
No.
Right? So we just, a lot of us got worse, right? We didn't, there was no therapy there, right? Even if you were a kid that kept your head down and did what you were told, right? Even one of those children, you still have trauma from seeing it, right? You are still verbally abused.
Or the fear of crossing one little bitty imaginary line that they turn on you.
And that's a real thing.
Kids can't live in that kind of fear. Kids just can't. They do not have the mental maturity. Adults can't even do it, let alone a child. But they don't have the mental maturity to do that.
Can you talk about, I see questions in the chat about how your mom dealt with it later on, and how do you parent your children knowing what you know now?
It's funny that my children might actually be watching.
Hi, kiddos. Mama's amazing.
they won't comment because social media is a wild place, but they
protect your identities, babies. Protect your identities.
Exactly. So my mom, she didn't believe me, right, for a long time, because
but tell her why they didn't believe you.
Because at the time I was super manipulative, right? So the school, I'm sorry.
But what teenager is not? What teenager is not?
Right. But not just that. The school would make the parents believe, right, that we were going to say anything to get them to take us out. So like the school is also manipulating the parents, because why? Money, right? It's super.
So can we talk about the money real quick? As we're
Sure.
going into this, so they can understand the money. What did your mom pay a month? A month.
She probably 5,000-6,000 a month. That was in the 90s, right? All told, I was there 18 months and she spent over $100,000 because they do also hit you for incidentals and stuff like that.
Oh, there's all the little charges. So it's a money grab.
It's
People,
money.
they're even charging the state. State dollars are going into these, and there's no regulations. None.
I just found out. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't make the connection that like if a kid is on an IEP or if the school board sends them there, they're all getting funding. I just realized that like a week ago, and this is years later.
If it's court ordered, if it's any of that stuff, that
Right.
money, just like if they go into a jail, that money goes into the jail's tax dollars.
It's truly mind blowing.
And I'm sorry, I took you off track. Of
Oh,
your
you're good.
Sorry.
When the first, so as I got older, right, and my mom and I's relationship got better, right, because I know I say this, I talk about this a lot, where I feel that me getting an apology from my mom, a lot of students don't get that, right? A lot of students still stay mad, right? Because you're mad, right? I know that, maybe some people won't admit that, they're not going to acknowledge, but you are mad. You're angry that your parents sent you away. You're angry that they didn't do enough research and the place wound up being abusive. So you hold on to that and it just like festers, right? In September of 2018, I'm sorry, I got something in my eye. In September of 2018 is when the first Times article came out. And it was on the cover of the Sunday Times, right? And I'm looking at it and I'm just like, because if you weren't involved with the behind the scenes stuff, it was just like, it seemed like it came out of nowhere, right?
Right.
And I can remember like looking at the article and just being like, this is it, right? Finally, somebody is hearing us, right? The article was about the death rate of the alumni, right? When that happened, my mom and I, that opened the door for several of those conversations that I do think was so necessary for me to not be mad anymore, And my mom and I did an interview with a reporter, I think last year. Yeah, it had to be last year because it was before she got sick, right? So, and they never ran the segment, right? And I actually just reached out to them to ask them for it, because I want that footage, right? If you never used it, why can't I have it?
So somebody just asked in the chat, there was another YouTuber that her husband worked at that school.
Yes.
Okay, did you have dealings with him?
He came after me, but I know that students are not happy about it. That she is apparently, he was a science teacher, I think. She has a very successful YouTube channel.
Yes, she does.
And it's because it's known now. But here's the thing: she wasn't an employee, right?
Right.
So I do know that I'm working on compiling a list, because as far as I'm concerned, licensed clinical social workers, if you were an educator and you were a mandated reporter and you failed,
absolutely.
I have a problem, right?
So if there was anybody from that time that had dealings with him, connect me.
Yeah, I will. So I did an interview on.
Because I'll go there, guys. I ain't scared. I don't give a damn how big your channel is. I'll go there.
I love how I pick bad bitches for friends.
I don't give a fuck.
No, I don't either. But it's been talked about. So I did a podcast interview. This guy has a YouTube channel, and there's been a couple of us on his podcast. I went and I saw it in the comments. She said the name of the channel. I just don't remember it. But so the family had, I call it eras, right? Because they changed. They did try, like when I was there being restrained, you will put in a blanket with duct tape, right? Once they built the new property, I did send Kendall a video of the property, right? That whole building was not there. Like the newer building was not there when I was a student, right?
Right.
When they built that the new building, they put quiet rooms, right? Which was essentially a padded room with the camera. And I was reading something the other day. It was in the paperwork that the parents got, and it was like a consent to restrain. And then it says that like, we're going to charge you $150 per night if your child is on night watch. So hold on a second. You're telling me you charged my mother $150 a night while I was wrapped up in a blanket with duct tape?
Right.
Huh?
Make that make sense. That needs to be my catchphrase here. Make that make sense.
Come on. And like, it's infuriating that it is still, you know, with the arrest of the guy, it's brought up a lot of emotions, right? Like,
how much of that can you talk about? Because there's some people that knows nothing what you're saying.
So one of the men that was a staff member and had access to children at the family, he did work for the family for over 20 years. He was the music director. Because they would go on music competitions, right? The chorus was one of those things that they used to trap parents, right? Chorus sports were a big one. And he did have an award-winning chorus, but he was also an admitted pedophile, right? Yeah. So he would also this is going to sound disgusting. He would sit. All right, let me back
it's
up.
already pretty bad.
Well, oh no,
I have people that's messaging me privately that doesn't want to be in the chat, and they're like, they've never heard of even what goes on inside the school. So we're missing a whole big part that, like, they don't even know.
So a table topic, right? A table topic was like, if you are familiar with operant conditioning, right? It's like the whole program is pretty much based on with operant conditioning, right? Like, you reward positive behavior with a good thing and you give negative to a negative behavior, right? Table topics. So the student population was essentially broken up, right? When I was there was about 100 kids there. We were broken up into originally 3 families, okay? Those families meant it was like 20, 30 students and like 5, 6 staff members, right? If a student did something wrong and needed to be confronted about it, they would be stood up in front of the family and degraded. I mean, degraded, right? Paul,
something wrong could be literally nothing though.
Nothing. If you didn't tuck your comforter into your bunk bed, right? It could be nothing. And everything would lead back to some type of sexual something in some way. I don't know the mental gymnastics that they got there. It was always sexual, right? Paul was my family leader for the first year I was there. His name was Paul Gear. Paul Gear liked to sit at table topics and tell children how he was such a sex addict and he had such a sex problem that he could not help but jerk off with a cheeseburger in his hand.
Oh my God.
With a room full of teenagers in the room. Totally acceptable, right?
That makes me sick to my stomach.
Imagine while you're eating, right? But he was
I just think that's just some of the stuff. That's not that's
like
a
normal person wouldn't say that in front of a child. Never mind 30 of them, right?
Right.
Paul got arrested 2 weeks ago.
I plan on covering as much of his trial as I can, guys.
Listen,
I'd like to see this guy buried under the jail, to be honest.
Yes. But that comes with a lot of emotions, right? Because it's been 25 years, right? The charges are from 1994, 2000, I think 2004.
Well, and the only reason these charges are happening is because Corey Feldman and a lot of other actors have been fighting the states to get these, because there's a
statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations. I totally couldn't find the word. On charges for sexual assault, and other things. I'm trying to remember what all the charges are. So now that they have lifted some of the things in New York, it's temporary, isn't it?
It's already closed.
So they had to have the thing started before the close date.
Correct.
And that's the only reason this is even happening. Otherwise, these people would not be getting justice. I have a hair hanging right in my face. So if it wasn't for those steps, this man would still be getting away with the crap he did to these kids.
Correct. And I was super nervous because even though he was being held accountable civilly, right? I was like, wait a second, this guy's not going to have to register as a sex offender. Like, it was driving me crazy, feeling like there's a loophole. He should not be around children. And up until the day of his hearing, he was advertising music lessons on websites for children.
So he should never be around kids. Ever.
They removed it that day.
Did they?
They removed his page. Yes.
So now
I thought I told you, Brandy.
I mean, it was gone. Like, so while we were in the hearing, we were listening on the phone. I created a chat, like a chat for the people that were going to be on the phone, because it comes with a lot of emotions, right? Like, you're happy that finally something is being done,
but you're reliving trauma.
But it kicks up a lot of trauma, right? We did have.
I told Brandy that in the years that I've known you, I've only heard you cry 2 times. God, it makes me want to cry. I've only heard you cry 2 times.
Right. I don't.
Well, and any time, you know, when I went through therapy for my abuse, which was nothing what you guys went through, but then again, I don't want to knock anybody's trauma.
Right.
Anything a child goes through is traumatic, no
Trauma's
matter what
trauma.
level,
Yeah.
how long, no matter what. And when I went through mine, it was more of a group thing with small groups, and we all told our story, and we had to write the story, and the other girl told hers. We just had 2 in our class, and I told mine, and she just bawled, and she said, "I don't belong here." And I said, "Why do you think that?" And she said, "I can't compare to that trauma." And I said, "Baby, your trauma is just as bad as my trauma. It was still bad. I just had a whole hell of a lot longer of life than you." But in the end, when you relive all that, they literally sent home letters to our families to this is what to expect, because even though it's the doors closed, they're ripping that Band-Aid off, and so I had nightmares and relived things, and so I cannot imagine what you guys are going through reliving.
It's been fun, right? Because there are some of us that are very much still stuck in that. A lot of us, you know, became addicts, and we've done therapy that, you know, to get through the trauma, but something like this, it just like right out the window, right? And so the ones that have done the work to heal the trauma, we're trying to lift the other ones up that aren't there yet. And while I'm in the chat, there are other girls disclosing in the chat, and I'm just like, it's wild that he has been able. I can't even think of like the amount of lives ruined, right? Because you don't just have, like, you also screwed the relationship up between the children and the parent, right? For who knows how long. And another a student that I was there with, he also took his own life right then. You know, it's just a lot.
The numbers are astounding. How many have died either by unaliving or by drug overdose. The numbers floored me.
Yeah, it is. It's super. It's really like. It's really difficult. Like, granted, things have changed, you know, recently, especially like things with the documentary that came out on Netflix, like stuff like that kind of puts a light on it, right?
Right.
So obviously, you have different things going on, and it's just like, I can't imagine, like, if those things didn't happen, right? Would we be in this situation? And now I have to hear these girls that are disclosing in a chat, but the window closed, so they can't even come forward. Right. So the FBI opens up an email, right, for students, alumni, or just children, right? Because he did teach music for years after,
right.
That could come forward. And she said that she received 75 notices in 4 days.
Holy crap.
Which
is not crazy.
It granted, all of us.
And this is one person, guys.
Right.
One
person.
And
it was only 4 days that 75 come forward.
4 days. Because we have groups, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like some people talk to some people, right? Like just like anything else, like this one talks to this one, or that one talks to this one. There's groups of us all over the place. But now that this is happening, you have all of us, right? So I don't think there's one person. She wrote a book.
I meant to get that link.
What is the I See You Survivor? That's
I See You Survivor. I started listening to that today.
She is to me, she's a lot like John Mon Crawford was, right? Because John Mon Crawford, when he went, you know, he knew before a lot of us. I know I say this about him all the time.
A lot of people don't know who he is.
Can you tell his story? Can you tell his story?
Sure. So John Mon Crawford was a student I was there with, and there was a web page created that looked just like the family schools page. They mirrored it, and except on that page, it had student stories, right? This is early 2000s. I'm sorry, my cat is going to try to jump on my laptop.
We're lucky I haven't had a dog come up over.
Yeah. But he was really involved with organizations that were trying to shut the school down. Congress did a hearing on, the troubled teen industry because they were calling for regulation. He testified in front of Congress in 2008. He was an amazing writer. He really was. But in the family, he was one of those students that would keep his head down, right? He followed the rules. He ran after runaways. Also, I should mention that when you're being restrained or reprimanded, a lot of times it's the students that are doing that as well, right? So at the same time, they cause this rift between the student population, right? Because if you're united, they can't. We would have taken over the place. So they pit students against each other, divide and conquer, right? in 2015, John Martin Crawford took his own life. And that was one of the, that had to be the one that was just like, wait a second, right? Because for so long, he had been taking on like the whole industry, not just the family, but, you know, he was so, I just didn't see him that way. And
he's the one that testified in Congress, right?
He's the one that testified in front of Congress.
He geared this in a direction of going
he started
somewhere.
it long
He helped
ago,
be where
right?
we are today.
And so
and
you
like,
would think that he was at a point of being
Exactly.
past the trauma
Right,
and handling
exactly.
things.
But
Things
that
are
one,
not what they appear.
right? That one really, because I had started talking to him privately about this stuff because there was a documentary that came out at that point in time. What the hell was the name of it? Under the GW was the name of it. And it was about that type of program, if I remember correctly. So we were talking about it, and he had some relationship things going wrong. And the next thing I knew, he was gone. And that death, it may sound crazy because there's so many, but that one was just like, wait, what do you mean? Right? Like, because he was our voice for so long. Like at that point in time, a lot of us weren't ready to talk about stuff like this. Like, and if you were talking about it, you could say it, but it didn't really hit you, like what was going on. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of y'all were still numbing yourselves back then.
Right, exactly. And so the family, like so we didn't, our parents, right? I'm talking about like my generation, my era, right? The internet wasn't as big of a thing then, right? So what winds up happening? Because of people like John Martin Crawford, as Google, right? It started search engines, right? The Family School Truth campaign was getting so many hits that it rounds up coming before the family school, their enrollment dropped and they had to close. Because parents started doing their homework, right? Because there was no place for my mom to go and look. That like my mom just saw this nice brochure of this nice place.
Right, we didn't have the Google that we have now, to where you could like go on Facebook and type it in there and find everything about it.
Exactly.
We didn't have any of that.
No. So things, but before all that, John Martin Crawford was that, right? So I can remember just being like, wait, what? Like I was so blindsided by it, because to me, like, he's our hero, right? Like he's the one that did all of the talking. He was an amazing writer, right? And a lot of us have gifts, right? Like we were, I was probably just bored, right? Like I got in trouble because I was bored. I didn't like, I was bored in school because I am intelligent, right? So the family, that is the only thing it did, was it got me from sophomore to senior year in 18 months, because you're in school all fucking day, right? Literally all day. They also have a serious religious component, right?
And that's why I was looking into that Synanon today, and I'm like, holy crap. Because I've talked about religious cults a couple of times, and it's another deep dive that I plan on doing, and even the social media cult aspect. And it is scary.
It you know what's scary to me, honestly? That
no, Kendra, not the same person.
The staff member, right? Like the staff, I'm sorry, like, can you imagine walking into your first day at work and somebody tells you to go help roll that kid up in a blanket and secure them with duct tape?
Here's my thought on this whole rolling these kids up in blankets and rugs and whatever else they're rolling them up in, and tying them up with duct tape.
Duct tape.
There's a name for it now. They're calling it tacoing.
Yeah, tacoing burrito, I would think, something like that. Stop and think about this a minute, guys. Critical thinking, right? We have pedos in prison, people that hurt children unimaginably, that get 3 meals and a cot, and they get to watch TV.
And they would walk out of that prison if they were caught.
And they can walk out of that prison after a certain amount of time and do whatever they want to do. They, to me, that is the worst criminal out there. I'm just
I agree.
Because they do damage that lasts for years and even goes generations.
Agree. The only acceptable pedo in my world is a dead one.
Is a dead one. There you go. We'll go there. I will agree with that. They have rights in prison. You know, that the guards can't beat on them. The guards can't smack them. Other prisoners beat them up. Then they get in trouble. You know, they go back into the court system. Free hog food, Mama Duke says. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hogs will clean it all up. Just saying.
But even they are protected in prison.
They're protected.
I mean, at a point, they
don't even get burrito treatment in prison for the crap
they get put with other pedophiles for protection.
Yeah. It's illegal in prison to burrito somebody and take care of business. It's illegal. But we're doing it to minor children who are innocent babies.
For money.
I don't care. I don't care if it's a teenager that's hooked on drugs and whoring themselves out there and beating up other people. I don't care. They're still innocent babies that need to learn and be helped.
Well, there's a reason why they're doing that.
Right.
Stuff was just normal teenage stuff. Now, not every teenager steals their mama's car, but I mean,
well, I don't know. I dated a guy in high school that his best friend is actually related to my husband. They stole the parents' car, credit cards, and I don't know, something else. They went on a joyride. They went a couple states over.
Yeah,
the one was for money, so he got, his family busted him out. The other one, his dad said, "Oh no, your ass can sit in jail." No. The one that sat in jail, guess what? He bettered his life. He now owns a business, has like 6 kids and whatever. The other one sadly died a few years ago from drug overdose, and him and I were very close, and so it was really kind of hard. But it happens. It's a teenage thing. We steal cars. We drink. We dabble with drugs. We smoke cigarettes.
No longer here.
We skip school. We do all these things as teenagers. That's kind of a rite of passage of being a teenager. You make stupid decisions.
Facts. Not fully, formed frontal lobe.
Right.
Maggie's no longer here. Margaret just lost her mom, but her mom was amazing, and she was just loving Margaret. She just wanted her to not, walk in her shoes and to be the amazing woman that she is today. And she,
and I can understand Margaret's mom because I was a teenage mother, and I watched my oldest, that I had at 16. I watched the shit she does now, as a 34-year-old woman. And I think that had she been doing those kinds of things as a teenager, there were some things as a teenager, but would I have made the same choice as your mom? And I probably would have. I probably would have.
Especially at that time when you couldn't research and see different.
Yeah.
Right. And when Margaret first started telling me these stories, one of the things that has stuck with me all these years was that she told me that they, which she talked about this already, but how they conditioned the parents to warn the parents that your babies are going to come back and tell you the most horrible things that they can think of to get you to come get them. So they're already prepared. That
I don't understand is I'm that mom that's going to show up unannounced. And the things I had my children in, if I couldn't show up unannounced, they weren't going.
But that's the thing. If you showed up unannounced, we were conditioned to smile, right? We would never
write fake letters.
Right. I've talked to, there are a decent amount, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are a lot of students that I was there with that wound up going into the military. And they said the military was a cakewalk was their quote compared to the family.
I can imagine. Because the military even has rules.
Exactly.
The only time you get things like burritoed would be when you're doing something the whole platoon keeps getting in trouble for your bullshit, and the guys do. Because my husband was military, and then they've talked about things that they've done, to the other soldiers that keep screwing up, and they're tired of scrubbing tile with toothbrushes. And that's it's not a regular thing that they treat people in this manner. And somebody had said a while ago, and before I forget, there have been many in the chat, and I'm sure those watching on Mosaic TV are saying, I am so sorry for what you and the others have gone through. From the deepest of my heart. I think that you and I are developing a little friendship here. So you have my heart, baby. And the ones in the chat are saying the same thing. They are so sorry for everything you guys went through. I want to be a voice for those that don't have the voice anymore.
I agree. And that's and like, this is the crazy thing, right? As bad as I had it, I didn't have it the worst. Right.
That's scary.
So like exactly. It's unfortunate that there's no level. Right. There is no level of and so they used to threaten us. Oh, we're going to throw you out and send you to a program in Samoa. Right. So in your mind, right, should you go with the unknown? Right. You know what you're getting at this place. And granted, it's not good. Right. But how much could it be over there?
So let's talk about the ones that did go overseas.
I don't know.
You don't know any of those? So they do send some overseas, guys. And let's stop and think about this a second. Overseas doesn't even have near the rules we have.
No. I stumbled on I followed the Reddit, the Troubled Teens Reddit, right? And when Paul was remanded the other day, I went there and I updated with his mugshot. And I came across a post from one of the 7 that were removed from the school in Jamaica. And his parents are sending him to another program. And I'm like I'm reading the thread, right? I guess he put it on a public platform. I guess he's not straight. And that he was shamed for his sexuality at the school in Jamaica. But your parents are sending you to another program. And like all of the kids, all of the survivors of the troubled teen industry are like, I'll talk to your parents. Like, what could we do? Because none of these programs are beneficial.
None. If they are not, like I said earlier, if they are not working with previous doctors that are dealing with medications and mental health, if they are not willing to work with those individuals, fuck that.
Right.
Fuck that and the horse it rode in on. No.
It's awful. And if you think, I know, I had, when I got sent to the family school, I had friends for 5-6 years, same group of friends I still have. We're still friends to this day, right? Our kids are the same age. Like, we've always been super close. When I got sent to the family, there was no contact, right? When I got out, the day after I turned 18, I just walked. I walked down that road and I called them from a payphone in Hancock, New York, and they picked me up in the city, right? These are girls I've known my entire life. That it's like they leave you with no support, right? I'm not really a fan of we're going to tear you down and rebuild you to begin with, right?
Yeah, I don't see how that's ever beneficial.
It's not because it's the opposite that is what's going to help ultimately, right? My cat's doing weird shit. So they don't
we're pet friendly.
No.
Super pet friendly. I'm just surprised we don't have anybody meowing, barking, playing, trying to get up here and get attention.
One yapping behind her. I usually have poodles around me.
Yeah, she does, for some reason she is like obsessed with my laptop. I don't know. But,
we're pet and wine friendly.
Yeah, she's certainly something, and she's having a field day. That's what's like. What do you mean your parents are sending you to? Because I'm sorry, and this might come off harsh, but to me there is zero excuse at this point. Right? There's too much information out there. There are too many students that are saying, "Don't do it, don't do it." I don't see why anybody. Right? Paris Hilton.
Right. I was going to mention her because I did not know she had been a part of this program. Yeah. And she has a documentary, so I'm going to look it up, see if I can find it.
Logo. Yeah, but like that is like that's what we need, right? We need somebody like Paris Hilton, whether and she flew to Jamaica with like a hearing that they had for the boys, and it's like she's giving it more attention than we could have done, right? So like I'm grateful for people like that have the means, right? Because she has both the platform and the money to start to make change. And even so, she introduced a bill, Stop Institutionalized Child Abuse, which is what
I'm trying to remember what it was because I had it pulled up and then I ended up closing my browser and lost it.
No, I think that's
because there are several senators and congressmen that are on board, including one in Texas, which I'm shocked about, actually.
Yeah. Does Texas have any?
I don't know.
I have a question though, and me and M, I call Margaret M, so that's who I'm referring to. Me and my son were talking the other. Me and my son were talking the other day, and he has a friend who, his wife, and the husband are literally having to get 2 separate apartments because the 14-year-old is so not out of control. The 14-year-old really has some issues, right? And they've tried getting him help, but they're having to not separate, but separate households to protect the 2 younger children from the 14-year-old. So, and they've had him like he's
is he violent?
Yes, he's very violent, and he's ADHD, but he's been tested for a whole lot of other things, and they're just come back that it's behavioral problems, that it's not. Chase was trying to explain it. You know how Chase is, and he's trying to explain it to me, and he was asking me, he said, but is there a need for places like this, that it's not mental issues why kids are acting up, there's real behavioral, and when the parents has reached out to the end of their, because this family he's referring to has reached out to the courts, has reached out to professionals, and they keep making him bring the child home. He went into some kind of I forget the name of it. I wish I had the name of it, but it's kind of like alternative school, but it's more advanced than that. Like that, he went and stayed for 3 months. He was kicked out of that, and there's nowhere else but to bring him home.
But what are the behaviors?
He needs psychology.
But he's been through. Chase was saying that they've been through all kinds of psychologists and the test, and they keep coming back and just saying that he's definitely got some anger issues. They're trying to get to where the anger comes from, but
anger is a secondary emotion.
What seems to be an okay family. There's some issues, but maybe there's issues that we're not seeing. Right? Everybody, what's behind the closed doors, we never know.
Sometimes there may be something that even the parents may not
really know, or maybe don't with those children. I mean, as a mother, my kid is mine. I'm going to go to the end of the earth for them. But what is the end of the earth? When you got other children that you're having to padlock their doors at night so the 14, 15-year-old doesn't come in and hurt them.
I have a friend, her name is Michelle, which she passed away about 7 years ago. Rest in peace, Michelle. Love you, baby. And it was mental health. I mean, and it was, we think she took the wrong medications, or it wasn't actual unaliving, but something along that lines. But when her daughter was, Rachel was 4, Matthew was 2, right around in that, the state literally come in and said, if you do not sign your son over to us, we're taking your daughter, because he was so psychotic. Right. They messed up his medication. They had put him on Ritalin and gave him too strong of a dose, and it truly fucked his brain up.
Oh yeah, it's like legal meth.
And so he spent, let's see, Matthew was about 12, 13 when he came back into the family, in the system. and they had visitation, and it was a very weird situation. And I'm gonna tell you what, that kid scared the hell out of me. He was big old boy. He's 6'2".
This child is big.
Big
He is
boy.
big.
And we were in church back then, and I was the youth or children's minister. And we're in there, and he's arguing, and I'm trying to calm him down. And I had known, because I was so close with the family, I knew there were certain levels that if you didn't just go get dad, it was just fixed to be bad. And so I said, Matthew, Miss Brandy needs you to chill, baby. And he just was in my face. I mean, he is, and I'm like, go get his dad now, run. And I'm just calmly staying calm with him. And they had to literally take him out, but he had such rage that we had to watch him. We couldn't leave him alone. Now with little kids, you could put him with the baby. You could put him in there in the nursery. You didn't have to worry about eating the baby. So good. Like he would die to protect babies.
Right.
You put him with other children his age because
I think that if it comes, it's a really tough situation, right? Because if he's harming the siblings, he's then causing them trauma, right? So
and they're also if in this situation where Chase is talking about is the family has already been. There's already been an issue where CPS has been brought in because the little boy is 9 years old, had bruises on him for where the 15-year-old was body slamming him.
CPS didn't remove him?
CPS, that's when he went into that school, but the family was still investigating. He went into that school and stayed 3 months, and he went through all the kind of health workups, and it's supposed to have been an all-purpose everything. Like they did
right.
They did mental, they did the physical, they checked everything, and they just come back and told him that he's got behavioral problems and some anger issues, and put him back in the home. And now they're making her mom's house, the basement, a little apartment. So her and the 2 babies, which are I think 10 and 8 or 10 and 7, like that, are going to go live in her mom's basement. And dad and the 14-year-old, because the dad's the only one that can handle him because he's a big boy.
Yeah.
He's 14, 15, but he's
that
a
was
big
with Matthew. His daddy was the only one that could handle him because he was big too. Because I mean,
that's scary.
Mental health has to change. And I say this all the time.
Absolutely.
Anytime I cover a school shooting, it's not about the fucking guns. It's mental health all day long. You've got these schools where they're throwing children in there and without proper mental health advocacy. And somebody had said a while ago, and I should have saved it where I could find it.
I'm sorry, I'm not keeping up with the comments.
No, I neither. It's fine.
I can't
We'll get back to them in a minute. About regulating, because here's the thing. I support this type of school for a certain reason. If it's regulated and we're investigating and there's proper therapy and there's proper doctors and there's proper
I think there's a need for it if done correctly.
Right.
And in this day and time, there should be a camera, 2 and 3 and 4 cameras in every inch of that school.
It's truly it's crazy, right? Because like I don't even think, I think maybe I had one teacher that was like supposed to be a teacher, right? Like my biology teacher.
So they weren't even licensed teachers.
It's because it's
she didn't even get to graduate.
Right. Oh, I have a GED. My mom spent $100,000.
Like I can't with this.
For me to have a GED because I walked 3 months before graduation, right? So
it's a homeschool situation inside a private school that they're raking in the dough.
Yeah.
They can't even pay teachers.
Big money, because you figure, so there's when the school, okay, so
when my kids were in private school, it was like $1,200 a month. So you guys, they were raking in the fucking dough.
Right. It's that's the only reason, right? And I don't understand why. Well, I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but
look, they all need to be fired. Everybody in office needs to be fired and start the fuck over.
But in a public school,
burn it down, start over.
In a public school, they can't even paddle children in Tennessee anymore.
You
cannot paddle a child in school in Tennessee anymore.
School, but Texas is different, guys. We are on our own level of.
I know. I live in Florida. It's the same shit, right?
Right, and so I do think we have a lot here that is still corporal punishment, and I struggle here because I am a corporal punishment person.
Yeah, I remember.
Brandy, I'll be in Texas Monday too, by the way.
Yeah.
What? Where?
I will. Arlington. How far are you from Arlington?
How far am I from Arlington? 4 hours?
We can meet up.
But I may have to come meet you.
Actually, I can do that. Love that.
I'll be there till the end of the week. My baby, he moved to Texas.
It's 4 hours for me. 4.5 hours for me.
We can meet halfway.
We can meet halfway and have a day. We could.
Yes.
It's not that bad. It's not bad.
We may have to do that, guys.
Yeah.
Going live. Look what I got.
I think a lot of people would love that one, right?
But so let's go back to some trauma things, guys. What was one of the worst things you saw or knew that happened in the school while you were there?
When I was there or afterwards?
Well, either.
The kid committing suicide is
that one is pretty rough.
You know, what's really hard about it is insulting of the parents So let me back up. It was way after me, right? But we do have a place where we could all talk about things. And recently it came up because the parents were lied to about the situation. Apparently the kid had told, like, the kid's family was very well aware that the kid was having suicidal ideation. And instead of bringing him to a higher level of care, right, they instead put the kid on shadow.
There are some things that are above your pay grade. I'm just
saying. And it should have been done. There was complete negligence there. 1000%. So the kid, when you have that type of ideation, they put you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to quote it like that, but the kid this kid had suicidal ideation. Everybody knew the kid had suicidal ideation, and he was put on shadow. Shadow is somebody that is literally up your ass all the time. He was put on double shadow, which means he had 2 people with him at all times.
And so that was their way of dealing with somebody with suicidal ideations.
And the kid took his own life, and the family.
And this is the young man that jumped from the top, right? Okay. So he goes up, guys, and he goes to the top of the building and walks off the ledge.
In front of 100 other students.
Yeah. With other students, right?
Watching, going,
Right. Those students, they're traumatized, right? I was a full grown adult the first time I saw somebody dead, and I didn't even witness it. And
I didn't go to that school and I'm traumatized, guys. Reading the story.
And those students, like, they told the parent, they obviously covered up, like, he was having suicidal ideation, and the parents, from what I understand, they are not aware of the facts surrounding the situation. And to me, that is just because the ripple effects of it, right? You have the kid that lost his life, you have the parents that have to live with the guilt, right? Because parents are going to feel guilty. They sent their child someplace and they got abused, right? No parent wants to know that they caused that child pain, right? Aw. And then you have the students that that was supposed to shadow him, right? They live with a tremendous amount of guilt because they couldn't. When somebody is in that state of mind, there's just things you cannot do, right?
No,
like, and that should have been handled professionally, not
trying to love them through is difficult,
right?
And that is a very dangerous spot,
right? That makes me, that is one of the things that makes me so mad, right? Because had they done right, like, so my ex-sister-in-law was a teacher in the New York City public school system. Right? I'm gonna go off tangent here for a little bit, but I promise you I have a point, right? So my ex-sister-in-law was a teacher in the public school system in New York City. A kid went missing, right? She went protocol, right? She went to her higher up, right? Which vice principal goes to the principal. There's protocol here for a reason, right?
Right.
My sister-in-law realized, I don't know, months later, that they never reported it, right? So now it's like, what do you mean you didn't report it, right? So it becomes like this failure, and the student winds up being like in Puerto Rico with her mom, but it doesn't matter because somewhere along the line, you didn't do your job, right? And now this kid is somewhere with an abuser in Puerto Rico, right? That's how I feel like these programs need, right? Because that kid should have absolutely been taken to a higher level of care. They are not.
They should have immediately said, "This is above our pay grade. We need help. We need professional help."
And they were
taking him to a hospital
for it, right? Like there are de-escalation techniques that are supposed to be used with somebody that is in that state of mind, and they didn't have them. They only knew how to escalate. They didn't know how to de-escalate, right? So where does the fault lie? To me, it's on the staff member that was there, because they should have removed that child from the population and taken him to somebody that could help him, because the kid was asking for help, but he was also suffering, right? And in my experience, people that take their own life, like, they don't want to end their life. They just want to stop the pain, right? So like, if you find a way to help the pain, you could make them okay for a little bit. If it comes back up, you find a different technique. They were not equipped to handle that at all. There was very little, like there was a psychiatrist that was on staff, but I don't even think I saw him my entire stay there. You had like a regular lady that handed out meds that had like, the only reason that she qualified for that position is because she had like 10 years sober. You know what I mean? You're around all, they were all, so a lot of the staff members came from Eastridge, right? Which was culty, right? So the only qualification was recovery, clean time. Like, I'm sorry, but I have seen a million people have recovery and be super fucked up or do super fucked up things, right? Case in point, these people are supposed to have like recovery, but there was no recovery there. You were abusing children. So really, how good was your recovery? That's not, it's like, and then you go through this thing where you leave. I was talking to somebody about this today, where you have to like relearn everything, right? Because you go into culture shock when you come in, then you're in this super fucked up place for a year and a half, and then you come out, and then you gotta like not take, like you have to relearn things because you're super fucked up in your head, right? It's really, I don't see a benefit. I don't. And the schools, I think that if the government did regulate the deceptive marketing practices, that we might get somewhere, right? Because they shouldn't be allowed to market this place at, like, take my school for example. Their college acceptance rate, right, was like their biggest flex, right? Oh, they have a 98% that goes off to college, which is what parents want, right? What does every parent want? You want your kid to get through high school and go to a good college. So they know that, so they use that, right? However, if you look at the long term, how many of those students dropped out of college? How many of those students wound up homeless on the street? How many of those students did wind up drug addicts 5 to 6 years after leaving, right? Because you might try to do the right thing, but you're still so conflicted in your mind that you can only uphold that for so long before it all falls down.
I'm kind of curious how many ends up reoffending. I mean, hurt people, right? I wonder how many of those people continue to hurt other people later on.
If you look at it, then many of them, how many continue to use when they get out of this program, because it's not.
I think a lot of us,
I mean, it's got to be worse than being institutionalized from prison, because it's got to be harder than that.
So before I do it, can I share what they wrote as his eulogy?
Yeah, you can. That's public. You can read that.
Because it's a little, I want to share this, guys. This is what they wrote for this beautiful human being's eulogy.
It's astounding, honestly.
It is.
You okay?
It is heartbreaking. So this is what they write for him: in remembrance the tragedy that shaped a family. In late February, a young man by the name of Tom Makowski joined Family 7 and brought with him the good spirit, but a hurting soul. Shortly after his arrival, he began to feel the depression, which had plagued him at home. And early in the morning on March 4th, Tom took his own life. He left behind 3 sisters and a mother and a father who loved him dearly. In spite of the horrible tragedy, the death of Tom Makowski, I hope I'm saying that right, provided not only a glimpse of the power of addiction, but also the friendship and love of an entire family. Family 7 responded not by giving up, but relying on each other and God to help bring us through the darkness that followed Tom's death. Goodbye, Tom, and thank you for showing us, hold on, I need to bring this up and read it, the humanness that is in all of us.
I can't.
That is what they found to be appropriate for eulogy for this beautiful young boy, beautiful kid. I see that face, and that's a happy face. That is a kid that was probably, I see a very mischievous young boy. I see somebody that probably pulled pranks.
I couldn't, when I read this, I was just like one sentence is worse than the next, right? Like,
right. It's like, who would say that in a eulogy?
Right. Like, what does the addiction have to do with anything? And like that type of behavior, right, truly just goes to show me they have no remorse, right? No, I can't imagine being, I really try, because I am like super empathetic. I really try to put myself like in their shoes, but like in no instance ever would that have been my response.
There is a whole other line that there's a whole lot we could put in there.
Right, like
how about the demons that he fought?
What is that?
That infuriates me to even look at it. I read that today and was like, oh my God.
When the first time I read it, it was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I was warned ahead of time because she told me about it, and then I'll read that and I'm like, this is gross.
Right?
I'm like, this is
gross. And the unfortunate thing is the parents defended the school, like, but I don't think that they know that boy was crying out for help. He was legitimately begging for somebody to help him. And isn't that what they were for? Right? Like, weren't you there to help kids? I see no help. There are some of like the later era kids that the family school saved my life, right?
Yeah, I've read a few of those where the kids are like saying, "This wasn't my experience," and I'm like,
right. That's possible.
That
right?
wasn't yours, but that doesn't mean that wasn't everybody else's
at all. And the school, like I said before, they did try to change their practices, right? Like, okay, you didn't get wrapped in a duct tape blanket, right? Because the school, if I remember correctly, they had a investigation. I want to say maybe 99. I might be off, but I do believe it was in the late 90s, maybe 2000. They were investigated and found no signs of abuse. But
how do those investigations happen? So how do those happen? Like, did somebody come in for 20 minutes and just
somebody admitted to calling actually the other day. I don't know who, but a student said when she left, she called them and said, like, you need to go and investigate this place. And it's taken how long?
Well, they covered their tracks too, because you've talked about all the VHS tapes that they had that would have had the absolute proof.
Somebody said they're probably in the bottom of the pond that they used to force us to swim in.
You know, and watching the one thing that brought my attention to this was watching the program on Netflix.
I didn't.
Which is a different school. And those kids went in and this school wasn't even smart enough to get rid of the evidence. Like the evidence is still sitting there. There's files after files.
I have a really hard time believing that because I probably think about the tapes more than I think about most of the other stuff, right? Because every time a student got restrained, like they legitimately set up a tripod, right?
Right. And so it's somewhere. Somebody has that shit somewhere.
So where are those tapes? Because maybe.
And if they have been destroyed, who destroyed them?
Right. Somebody speak up. Here's the thing. You want a clear conscience when you go to heaven if you believe in heaven. I don't know. Everybody believes in something different.
That is what
maybe on your shit.
Crazy to me, right? The owners, so the owner, the female original owner, she is still alive, right? The male, so a husband and a wife, they used to take in runaways. That's how the family started. They used to take in runaways, and then so like a foster home, right? And then they got too big, so they had to get a license to get to expand. That's literally how it became. She is still alive. Well, I have an appointment with an attorney on Saturday because I was told that now that there's criminal charges, right, that opens the door for us to file a class action lawsuit, right? That's the only thing I want to know. And I think that I might actually be friends with the guy who ran it on Facebook after the fact. But like, I just want to know, and every kid had a black binder. This is when I was there. I don't know what they did after I left. I can only, I can only go back to then, right? Every kid had a black binder that progress notes would be written in. Where's the videotapes and where are the binders, right? Maybe they got rid of them. Somebody said they're probably at the bottom of the pond. I actually went back there. 2003. I brought my son there. It had to be 2003, maybe 2004. And that just like, I left on bad terms, right? I was considered a runaway because after I turned 18, I just walked.
Well, 18 you're an adult, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. But I did speak to an attorney years back, early 2000s, right? And he said that the age of, he's had the most success as far as suing the TTI industry. He's based in Utah. And he told me that in order for them to keep us, they would have had to have a court hearing for each and every one of us because at 16, we're considered adults. And I was like, well, that's interesting because I know that didn't happen, right? Like, yeah, our parents essentially signed us over, but we still had constitutional rights.
Right. You still at 16 in most states, or you have the your legal age of consent. Basically.
Right. So, and I never pursued it. I should have, but I didn't because I was a lot closer then. But after this, I was like, somebody's got to pay. Like somebody found my TikTok. One of the guy that was arrested. So I've been posting about him on TikTok, and one of his neighbors commented on my TikTok.
You sent me this.
And she said, I was his neighbor, something like I was his neighbor for 7 years. I'm glad that you kids are finally getting something along the lines of, I'm glad that you kids are finally so I know Hancock is a very small town, right? So this has breached, it used to just be localized, our community. If you saw, that he was a predator on certain websites, right? Like you would see him, right? I'm sorry, I know that's going to I'm trying to find her comment because she commented and I was like, wow, like one of his neighbors found like my TikTok. She said,
have it. You want me to read it?
I got it. I'm absolutely shocked. That person that got arrested was my next door neighbor for 7 years. I'm sorry that you had to endure all you did. That was the day of his hearing. So I said he was held. We're waiting on a decision. And she said that means he can't get out while he awaits trial. Thank God. But the judge, we're actually all on an email list because so there's a lot of legalities here, right? So the judge needs to review the case law and see, because New York did like a bail reform, right? And he doesn't have any prior criminal history, right? So there's a good chance, I'm hoping that if the judge sets bail and puts him on house arrest, that it's like $10 million, something completely unobtainable, right? Because he should never. But the reality of the Bail Reform Act is that he might get bailed, right?
There's also a limit of what he can set the bail at.
Right. So we're on an email list so that we get notified once the judge comes to a decision. I'm hoping it's tomorrow, but it's a good thing, right? Because he should not be never, like, does he let him out and give him a no contact order with children? Like it's really, I don't think, but
I think minimum there needs to be a no contact order with children.
I mean, but one of the girl that wrote the book, actually, she wrote a statement for the hearing, and that was the most emotional part for me, right? Because she named the students we were there with that were dead, right? And it's like, God, like, you know, they preach accountability, right? Take your inventory. Where's yours? Right? Like this is what, so it's also bringing out like the hypocrisy of the entire program, right? Because they told us, like, if you do something wrong and you're confronted about it, you got to stand up and take your inventory. Why aren't you taking yours? Right? Like you did these things. It's not, I could understand if we were lying, right? Then by all means, like you have nothing to answer for. However, we're not lying. Y'all abused us and you're just refusing to answer for it. In that first Times article, I will never forget reading that Times article and the owner. Now, remember, the first article was about the abnormally high death rate among students. And he said, I just want to move on.
So I'm glad you want to move on, dude. I'm glad you think that.
And in my mind, I'm like, you had the perfect, like you had to know, we all read it, right? You had the perfect opportunity to acknowledge what you did, to take your own inventory for what you did, because you not only took part, you ran the whole fucking operation, right? So if anything, you're more liable than all of them.
Right.
I'm hoping that some conspiracy charges and come along, right? Because they were all complicit. They all knew they all knew he was abusing children. They all knew students were being physically abused. They all knew that food was being withheld, used as a bargaining tool. They all knew that there was abuse. Every one of them.
Is he the only teacher that, I know he's the only one that was charged legally, but is he the only one that was physically assaulting kids?
Mm-mm.
So there were multiple adults in the facility abusing children sexually and physically.
Mm-hmm. All of the staff. I don't think that there was a single staff member that didn't abuse physically.
Wow.
But sexually, as far as I know of, there was the cook, Paul, and the priest.
Why do priests always get that title? Don't go into the priesthood, people. Don't.
But that's what I know of, right? Like
some of these predators took these kids off campus.
That's why he's charged, right? Trafficking.
Trafficking. That was one thing I was reading, that it was because he took him across the state line.
That's exactly why.
And that's the loophole they found.
There are other students that he did not take across state lines. The trafficking and the coercion is what is getting him. And one of the victims, 2 of them are male, right? One of them is a female, 2 of them are male. One of the male students was in the court hearing, and his statement, he was there before I was, right? So 94 was the first, 94 was the first, I'll hit mute, hold on. Amanda, hold on. Did they stop? Because I'm doing an interview. Did they stop? Mm-hmm. Am I good? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, baby. Yeah. We have a troll in the chat, so I had to go into that. Sorry.
Only one?
So one so far, we're doing good.
Yeah, the dogs go crazy no matter who it is that works. Like even kids that they know that they've known their entire life, they go nuts. From what I understand, there are others, but the boy, his statement was just because the concern with the judge is that the charges from the last one is from the early 2000s. So why is he a danger now? Right, that's the question. Right, is he a danger now? That kid got up in front of the courtroom. His wife was not present, which is interesting. The assault, the guy, Paul, his wife was not at the hearing.
Well, I imagine she's hiding right now. I imagine that
she knew. She worked there. She knew.
Oh, she was part of the school too.
Yes. So
Jesus Christ, my jaw keeps dropping.
Most of the time there was husband and wife. So every staff member and their wife, like every male and their wife worked there. There was Tom and Mary. There was Robin and Mike. There was Roxy and Mike, I think. Paul and Diane, Cindy and Mike. They were all married couples. So they're all right. So his statement was really powerful, right? Because he said the first time that I felt safe in over 25 years is when I saw him last week in handcuffs. And that is just like, it's true, because even though you know they can't hurt you, right? Your psyche somehow just, you're still there, right? Like some part of your psyche believes that you are still that child. It's unfortunate, and my heart broke for him. And again, he was there before me, right? So 94.
What about the ones before him?
Right. And so this is the thing. That's when Paul started working there. Paul started working there in 94, right? So you figure 94 to 2014. The school closed in 2014. There's way more.
Years.
There's way
years.
more.
It's got to be.
There was another one filed in November. That's against multiple staff members as well. They go in the lawsuit that I was reading today, because somebody did drop it in the mod chat that we have for the group, and I was reading it, and it's like the staff members, multiple staff, are named as knowing and being complicit for the abuse, right? Because students did disclose the abuse to staff, and they just swept it under the rug, right? Which is like, I don't think that there's a situation in this world that would make me ignore the fact that a child just came to me and disclosed sexual assault from staff. I would never. There is no,
as an adult now,
right?
No. The first time I was assaulted, I was 8. It was an uncle, and my grandmother stood on her little front porch with her little mean ass dog and said, "It's your fault. Why did you go down there? You had no business going to your uncle's house to play with my cousins. Go figure."
Right.
It was my fault as an 8-year-old child.
It's super. I mean, maybe it's just I could never do it. I could never.
Yeah. Now I'm the one screaming. I'm the one that anything that even catches my eye is weird. I'm watching. I'm asking questions.
You stay with a man that you know is doing that? Absolutely fucking not. They got married when I was there. So 96. You stay with a man that you know has assaulted multiple students. You stay with him?
And you can't use the excuse it's about the sex, because it's also with males.
You've seen a picture of him?
Yes, there was nothing good about this dude.
I'm sorry,
he looks like a creepy pedo. I'm sorry, he just looks like a creepy pedo.
I said that in the statement.
If you open Wikipedia for creepy pedo, and that's what the picture's gonna pop up.
I will show you. I'll show you. I'll show them. Oh well, do you have a picture you could bring up?
Did you send it to me?
I mean, I could. It won't take me long. I probably have it in my recents, because it's. I don't know. It's like you think of like the most not good looking man.
Is it the one with?
I got it.
Okay.
So this is him.
Yeah, that's him, guys. That is our creeper.
You know that TikTok sound? Is that your man? You're gonna stick by him? Like he looks, but that's the thing. And I said that in the statement that I wrote. I said, like, I wasn't assaulted sexually by this man, but I did.
Thank God.
That like he just gave me the
ick,
never
yeah.
mind the topics at the dinner table, right? Like,
I can't believe you talked about that at the dinner table. Like,
not just once, it was in everything. When I say that everything led back to sex, I mean everything. If you they just always brought everything back to sex. The entirety of my stay, I was talking to somebody about this today. I was on blackout with boys, meaning I could have no contact. I was not able to speak to boys in any way, shape, or form. Right now, if you think about it, your teenage years, like that's when you learn healthy, dating, like
communication
right?
and etiquette, just
Healthy
everything. Yeah.
Which that, like, I don't, unhealthy relationships with men. Who's that? You know what I mean? Like that's all the ripple effects are so. There's too many to name, right? And it's not even that. It takes a lot of time to pinpoint where it all comes from, right? But 99% of my issues stem from that place.
Well, yeah, because that's the informative years. So everything that you would have learned in that age, healthy relationships, whether it male or female, adult,
right,
peers,
right,
healthy communication.
It all
of that was affected. Everything.
All of it. And I had, right, like that's the crazy thing is that like I had a long-term boyfriend at that time, right? I had very good friends that had been in my life for years at that point in time. Like it's just that my mom had, she worked a lot and I was just bored, right? And I was just going with my friends doing what they were doing. I wasn't thinking that, oh, well, you know what I mean? Like I don't think that anybody really does at that age.
Angel hormones are ruling the world.
Right.
I mean,
like, you're telling me I'm a whore because I had eye contact with a boy that I don't even know, and I have a boyfriend at home for over 2 years at that point in time. What? You know what I'm saying? But they did. The owner, especially the Tony, he was really like he would just stand in girls' faces and scream at them. And he was like this short little Greek man, right? Scream at them, talk to him about the sex, talking to teenagers about the sex that he has with his wife, like just super inappropriate conversations all over the place. Nobody thinking maybe I shouldn't say this in front of a room of children, right? Like, because to them, we were all alcoholic drug addicts that were super promiscuous and used our bodies to get what we want. Huh? Like, just because Linda was a hooker for 40 years doesn't mean that that's what we're going to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was very projective, too. A lot of the things that they said were super projective, meaning that's what they were doing, or that's what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that, like, I don't know. I think that if I was living, somebody sent me a DM on Reddit recently. They said,
Lord, y'all have a Reddit thread too?
I'm sorry?
Y'all have a Reddit thread too?
Yeah, we have a Reddit. Well, I have both. I have Reddit's about me.
I'll have to go find it.
I have Reddits about me, like literally dedicated to me. And then I have Reddits that are like Reddits that I actually participate and look at because, somebody sent me a DM on Reddit that they are from Hancock and that his sister, he's like, I knew that something weird was going on at that school. His sister had picked up a runaway and drove the runaway to, I'm trying to pull it up so that way it's easier, right? He said, I just watched your podcast on YouTube yesterday about the family school. I grew up about a mile from there, but I went to public school in Hancock. We always heard the horror stories about what went on there, but those involved always denied it. I think it's also super important to mention that the owners of the school are really respected in their community for now. Right. We always heard, I'm sorry, I read that. We used to ride our 4-wheelers up past the school and would see the kids out there working. My dad and sister tried to help out a few runaways by giving them rides into town since it would be like a 7-mile hike, but I'm sure they didn't get much further than that. I'm sorry you had to go through that experience and I'm glad the place is shut down. And it's okay,
so I just pulled up the census. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, never mind. Go ahead. I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah, no, he finished. That was it. But it's crazy how they knew, right? Like,
when we're talking small town guys.
Oh, it's
okay?
small. Mm-hmm.
The 2020 census, 908.
Mm-hmm. It is a super small town.
I live in a very small town here in Texas.
Oh, do you?
Yes, there's 1,200 and.
Oh, so it's smaller.
18 people here. I say 18 because we moved here. When I saw the population sign, I'm like, oh look, we had it too. Like we have a Dairy Queen and a Sonic, and a grocery store and a Tractor Supply and like other hardware stores because we're country.
Yeah.
This town is smaller than we are.
It is super small. Super small.
Like 908 people in 2020.
That's
insanely small.
the owners opened up a movie theater with the money that they made from
Oh well, of course.
Yeah, their reviews aren't doing so good, I hear. We're trying to, yeah, because like here's the thing. Could you patron a business knowing that they had their hands in abuse?
I don't have a clue why their ratings dropped in the last 2 days.
I would know. I would know. No clue.
But I won't have a clue when they licensed clinical social workers lose their licenses either. Right?
Me either. I mean, who would think it? I mean, you know.
Heather.
I'm here. It's a good time to stop.
Well, that's about halfway through.
Okay, good.
So,
let's do.
sure. Yeah.
That's a lot in one day. I had started watching it before the stream, and I think, oh, it's so much. So glad y'all were listening, though.
No, Potter, it didn't freeze.
We just paused it. Yeah, it's 3 hours long.
It's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So I stopped it like at an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah. I figure everybody's getting sleepy, and I don't want everybody going to sleep with all this negative on their mind. You know what I mean? Although it needs to be talked about, and I'm so thankful she had this, so that Brady, I can't tell you how thankful, because I couldn't do it today. I just was so upset, and so when she shared that link, when our favorite villain shared that link, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is great!" So thank you so much for allowing us to play some of it tonight, and I hope everybody subs up to her also. And Potter, thank you, and all the mods for dropping links, and y'all being here and supporting this movement.
We will do, when Heather's ready, we will run the other half of it.
Yeah. We have lots more information coming out too. So just let us get to that point, and we'll be ready. But I think you're going to go live tomorrow night, and we'll just hang out and have fun and talk shit.
Yeah, that's
do some of that.
Yeah, I figured it
was a lot.
Yeah, I figured I'd put a live up tomorrow, and it's open panel, so.
No, love you too, Lynn.
You want to come up and craft while you're chatting, or?
If you want to talk about blessings, sometimes dreaming's still talking to us. She's still giving us things that this timing again is just, there's a higher power that just somehow these things get to come out and be exposed at the right time. OG Fish, I'm so glad you were here. I saw 50D earlier. Thanks y'all for coming in and supporting. It's a heavy subject, but we've known about it a while. We've just barely touched on it some because we were waiting for all the things. And it's now time. Karen, thank you. Thank you too for coming in. I see all of you. Heads up. So with that, I'm going to tell y'all good night. Sweet dreams. And remember that each one of us all matter. I know. I see you putting dreaming. Don't make me cry again. Oh, I've been crying all day. Okay. Love y'all. Thank y'all for coming, and we'll see you soon. Good night, Brandy. Good night, Ida.
See y'all tomorrow night.